Welcome back to the Line of Oath. Today, I have two returning guests, or even who are going to be future co-hosts. I got Mr. Johnny D here and Mr. Eric
Howdy,
Phillips.
howdy.
We got Eric Phillips, who's the GMR National Commander, and John over here. He's just a misfit. I'm not going to even give his titles.
Thanks,
Oh,
buddy. Appreciate the love.
ouch.
Terrible.
So
Um,
today, we're going to go over some important topics in our three opinions. Correct?
yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
We're going to go over the EMS Memorial because a lot of people still do not know about it. And then the moving honors and what it's about because really most people don't know about the moving honors. And I'm going to do the least amount of talking today. I'm going to let John and Eric do most of the talking today because you guys hear enough of me every week.
Uh-oh.
So
Yeah, you get really annoying after a while.
I know. I know. I think we decided we're going to start with the memorial, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a
So
good place to start.
let's start with the memorial and what it means to us and the activities and things we do at it. And we could go all the way from the nights we meet to the bonding we do to the actual memorial itself. Who wants to take it away first?
Oh,
Oh.
the senior chief on board here.
Oh
There
my
you
God.
go, Mr. Eric.
So I'll throw it out. The first time I got to go to the memorial, and you have both already alluded to this a little bit in some previous episodes about the fact that this is a thing that you didn't even know was going on. Um, I got to go to the memorial in 2021, which was the first one after COVID, right? And because they missed the COVID year, so I got to go in 2021. And the only reason I found out about it is because they were honoring a former employee of ours named Jennifer Hesselbein. She was struck by a motor vehicle. Years later, she passed due to uh, complications related to her injuries during that crash. So she wasn't part of our workforce originally. She was a transplant from somewhere else. She came in and had been working for us for several years in Jackson, Mississippi. She was from Missouri originally. And she got injured. And then after a little while, she wound up moving home. Well, when she moved home, she was there for several years. And then, like I say, some of her uh, complications related to her injuries kind of took over a large part of her life and ultimately wound up, you know, leading to her demise. And it was in 2020 that she passed it, and then they honored her in 2021. I could be wrong about that. It may have been 2019 because they didn't honor her in 2020 and then they did in 21. Regardless, they called and they started talking about it. I had never heard of this thing. Never heard of it. I had no clue what it was about. Uh, Eric Johnson called me and Jana Williams called me. And they talked and told me a little bit about her being put on the board or put on a suggestion of an honoree being submitted, how she had passed through the vetting or that she was going to be considered for the vetting committee and then how the vetting committee had approved her, an additional phone call about it and said, hey, by the way, all right, we're going to honor her at the National Memorial. We'd love for, since, y'all are her original employer, we'd love for you to come up. And I'm like, I've never even heard of this thing. Uh, and Jana was like, well, that's crazy because you've got some Colorado people from AMR that come every year. And you've got some Riverside people that come every year. And I was like, that's amazing. I just didn't know. And I don't know if it's a conversation that had just not come up or whatever the case is. But anyway, myself and my lieutenant commander in Mississippi at that point in time, along with our then national commander, who was Sandy Logan, popped up. We went to the National Memorial. It was our first thing. It was utterly overwhelming, all things combined, all of the things that happened, all of the things that we got to do and see. I was honored enough that year to be a presenter on stage, got to present related specifically to Jennifer's family. I was on Roses that year, I think. at the memorial service, they present a flag, a rose, and a medallion that, you know, are significant to the memorial itself, to the family members. And I think I was on roses that year, so I got to, you know, give her mother a rose. Uh, it was fantastic. It was very moving. Um, for me, it really reignited a lot of why we do what we do. We unfortunately were not involved in her funeral at all because she was 2 states away, and so we just weren't involved with it, or 3 states away. So it was kinda difficult for us to be able to travel at that point in time and make it up for her service, so we weren't involved. So for us locally, specifically Haley and I, it was important that we had the opportunity to go and see and be a part of that, gave us a little bit of a closure spot on there. So getting to be there and be a part of the actual memorial service family that with the family to a member that we lost is just really important, and it was really, uh, added a level of closure to us to everything that happened with her, which was really, really detrimental to our entire operation. It was a really tough scenario. It was a really tough call for a lot of people, and it's really detrimental to a lot of people over the years. It added a certain level of closure to everything that happened to her, which was, like I say, just really, really important to, uh, me and my Lieutenant Haley Sledge, because it just kinda bookended everything that happened with her. I would love to say that that's what really reeled me in and hooked me from the get-go and said that, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do, and, you know, we have to be a part of this every year." But it wasn't that. It was the night before that really cinched it for us that this is exactly what we need to be doing and that we need to be a part of this. And it's really important that we participate in this and we continue to participate and we continue to support in this. And it was something very small. It was something that it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was very specific that it happened. And it was just related to the fact that there was an immediate need for something to happen, and Haley and I were in the right place at the right moment to help facilitate that need. But, for us to be able to facilitate that need on a very, very short notice, and it was something as simple as laying a wreath in the standing wall that is there for the memorial service of all the names, and it's the first time we'd ever done it. It's the first time they'd ever even thought about trying to do it. It was a wreath that was just very specific, somebody had ordered and had there and had available, and like I say, Haley and I were at the right place at the right time, and Jana said, "Oh, man, we need to put this wreath out there amongst the wall boards," and it was a question of, "What do you want us to just go put it out there, or do you want us to go throw our uniforms back on?" And she said, "Well, like, it needs to go out there like 10 minutes ago. How quickly can you get your uniforms on?" So Haley and I ran like within 5 minutes, threw our Class A's back on. We're dressed out downstairs, ready. We took 2 walkthroughs real quick just to make sure that we were ready to do it and make sure that we had everything that we needed. And we uh, helped facilitate a very unique need for something that they had never done, but it was a pretty integral part to what is now a normal part of the ceremony of laying that wreath for the wall boards in the, um, in the activity, in the long run of everything that goes on. It's just something very neat that I was a part of for something that is probably going to continue from here on out. And that's really what kind of hooked me, that and getting to see and getting to close that loop with that family member, and then from there being able to see how it affects everybody else and see all of this that's going into it, and getting to see all of the ways that we honor the people that we have lost or the people have lost, or all of those things, getting to pull all of that in and actually getting to see that, that's really what hooked me on it and got me to the point that I was like, I have to be a part of this. I have to be a supporter of this. I have to help whatever I can to continue this forward and keep making sure that it is something that continues for years to go. So that's where it got me. And then that year afterwards, after that ceremony, that year, we had a line of duty death due to COVID several months, like right after it. So taking that information of what I knew was going to be offered for that family, that wife and that son, and knowing that that's coming for that family and being a part of that when everything's going on for that family and getting to not only participate and take and do everything immediate for them related to the final services of visitation, which were extremely limited because of COVID, and then um, the funeral itself, which was a very unique situation because it was COVID, and then um, being able to help that family make sure that they had the opportunity to see that and be a part of that memorial service. That was it was very important to me and very formative that that first year I got to go in 2021 really helped support everything that we've done since. Because for me, I look at it as something personal now because I see what it did for that family. I see what it did for that original family. I've seen what it did for that second family. And now I understand what it means to every one of those families just a little bit more because we had a family member, but it wasn't our family so much. But the second one, it really kind of was because it was so much more to me and it was so much more to everybody that got to facilitate that and go and be a part of that year's service, which was also the first service that we got to go to Arlington. So, and lay a wreath on behalf of the memorial service at the tomb. That was a whole nother aspect of it and a very formative aspect as well. But um, for us getting to go in that service with that in 2022 and being able to all of my team, my guard, my people, my family, my close knit Mississippi family team, getting to go and be a part of that and walk with that family member up to the stage when she goes and receives those things, those items of service that they give. It meant a lot more because we were part of the flag folding team. We were part of the setup team. We were part of the practice. We were part of the flags. We were part of everything that went on and then we were also part of it going in and helping escort that family up to the stage to receive those items. That's where it hit me, and that's what was really important to me is to get to see those, and that's where it really built in for me, so, that's kinda my history of it and where we went, and that's why it's important for me to get other people to get the opportunity to see it and participate and be involved in it and making sure that we're sharing the wealth. And even just on my national team, it's getting the other people the opportunity to see and be a part of it and help spread the word that it's even a thing. So,
Before we move on to John, can we just describe and tell the amazing work you've done and built, what amazing team you've built with GMR
ugh,
and the
man,
size of it, and pretty much everything you've done with it because it's quite an amazing task that you've done.
well, look, man, I am only where I am because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. There are people who started things and built things long before me. There were things in place long before me. I can't take all the credit by any means. I can only take a little bit of it. Um, my predecessor, Sandy Logan, was the first one who got us to the point that everybody knew everybody, which was a really big task in itself, an undertaking in itself, and getting people to know that, uh, our teams over here are not the only ones, and the team over here is not the only one, and the team in Mississippi is not the only one. When I started our team in 2011, I thought we were the only ones who did it. I had no idea that there was anybody else. Um, when I found out that I was the 5th team, or that we were the 15, it was kinda eye-opening. There were a couple other teams in place. Uh, a couple of those other teams, folded for different reasons, whatever the case may be. Um, 2 of those teams left that original 5, so there were only 3 of us for a very short period of time, and then there was a spread to somewhere else, and then there was a spread to another team, and then another team. And, a number of years ago, uh, Sandy Logan tried to retire the first time, and some leadership said, "Nope, we're not done with you yet, and we're gonna put you to doing something." So they pulled Sandy where he could try to corral everybody and coordinate everybody and at least get everybody familiar with everybody. Due to some, some family um, priorities that Sandy had, he had to leave the position and they opened it up. I interviewed with a couple other people, Tony included, and luckily I was selected to be able to do it. I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity. And since when I took over, there were 9 teams. That's state of Washington, uh, Portland, Oregon, Northern California, Southern California, Colorado Springs, Texas team, which is partially New Mexico, partially Oklahoma, but primarily Texas, and then Mississippi, and a small team in New York. Uh, since that, or when we started, there were probably, if I'm remembering right, I think there were about 87 of us, I think is what it was. I think it was about 87. Since I took over, the state of Washington has expanded into Seattle. So there's more than just Spokane, it's just Seattle. And then I have helped facilitate the start of a 10th team in Texas. We have expanded some of the growth in a couple of the other teams. Northern California team doubled its size a couple of years back. Well, about a year ago. It was about a year ago that we went out there. So,
Yeah, about
uh,
a year ago.
yeah, a little more than a year ago. So the Northern California team doubled its size at that point in time. I've also helped facilitate. Let me back
Mhm.
up. There were 8 teams, and I have facilitated the start of 2 more. There was a team on the Gulf Coast that started, and that's in Lower Alabama and the Panhandle of 2 specific GMR entities there. It's called MedStar and Lifeguard in Santa Rosa County. Those 2 came together and made a regional team, much like the Texas team. So there's that one, and then I've helped facilitate a team in that startup in Georgia. Um, they're still kind of small. They're still growing. They're still, feeling their Wheaties, if you will, but they're starting to um, gain a little traction and work on things. Um, it sometimes some markets it's difficult to get a lot of buy-in to those things. People don't understand the importance of it. Some people don't necessarily. It just doesn't click well with, and they don't understand why they need to be doing it or why they can do it. Maybe, and I think Georgia is one of those places that there's a very select few that caught it like off the bat, and they say, "Oh, I got to be a part of that." And that core team is going to really, I think they're going to do great things. Just for reference, we got 2 other teams that are coming online. Actually, next week I'll be in Connecticut helping revive a team in the Connecticut area. So I'm really excited about that one because Connecticut was one of the original 5, and they folded years ago, probably about 12 years ago. And I'm blessed to be able to help facilitate that revision and be a part of that. So I'm really excited that they are coming back online. And then we've got another team in Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan. They should be coming online before the fall, before the end of the year. All total right now across the nation, we got about 133 people, something like that, and I think about 20 of them
Wow.
are not formed.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I actually just counted yesterday. I think we've done 68 activities over the year to date so far. Since since New Year's this year. I think it's been 68 nationwide. We're still filling in a couple of things here and there that, uh, some of them are waiting or some of them trying to close out some events so that we can count them and show that they were, things that we did. But I think it's about 68 so far, I believe, if I'm counting right, if I'm remembering correctly. And like I say, we're somewhere around 133 people nationwide. Uh, I'm really proud of a couple of things that we've done, and my employer that has been supportive enough to be able to help facilitate those is last September or last December in St. Louis, Missouri. Last December, we had a summit training where everybody came together in one place at one time. Um, I am a big, burly, ball-headed, biker, rides motorcycles, rides bicycles, like, I am a tough nut kinda guy. I wanted to sit in the corner and cry last December because I saw 88 people with one mission in one place at the same time. I shit you not, I wanted to cry. Um,
You
so
can't
that was
see it because my fat head's in the way, but I have it right here.
mine is right there. Actually, mine is right there. That one is number 100. That one will never go to anybody. That's for the last of these. That one will always stay right up
Feeling left
there
out
for
here, boys.
everybody else.
Eric, between
Um,
you and Sandy, you guys have built something incredible.
eh,
And
you
to
know,
even do what you said 68 events so far.
yeah, I think that's right. I think it's like 68 nationwide. So,
That's actually
uh,
that's amazing and thankful to GMR for you guys and helping uh, with this because EMS as a whole for Honor Guard is still fairly new.
Still very
it
new and
it
still very unknown, which is crazy.
it is exactly. And that's one of those things is that I recognize is like we can support so many other people. We have that gift that we are able to support these other people. We're not we're just filling in that gap to where that help we can aid somebody else. So we can provide that little bit of extra. We're not looking for anything special, but we're wanting to be able to help take care of those people and remember those people and us providing that at the National Memorial Services it's a huge deal for us, and it's a huge deal that we get to do that. And, if I've got 10 teams, if I send 5 people per team, that's 50 guard members that are there to help make a weekend more memorable for a family member that has lost somebody. Eh, like, to me, I don't wanna do too much because I don't ever, 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 ever wanna make it our show. This is not our show. This belongs to somebody else. This belongs to the National EMS Memorial. This belongs to everybody that has lost somebody. This belongs to everybody else that's out there. This is not a GMR thing. Like, and I understand that. And I don't ever want to take that away from anybody else because I want everybody to be involved in. I want everybody to get to see that. I want everybody to get to have that opportunity to be a part so, like we will support however we can. And it's really important that that's not the only place we support. We support other people, we support other entities. There have been some losses this year that we've had the opportunity to go help those other departments. And it's such a blessing for us and for our people to be able to help facilitate that closure with those other families. It even people we don't know, but specifically people we do, but even those people we don't know, it's such a it's so cathartic even in ourselves. It's very heavy, it's very tough, but even in our own people, it's very cathartic to be able to do that and know that we're helping those other people. It's just very important for that. So, but
Hell,
you know, I,
honestly, I can attest to that because how many times, 3 or 4 times at least, I've asked you guys to help me because as I'm trying to build my guard, I don't have the personnel,
yeah,
and GMR has stepped in and helped me.
yeah. But and it comes with its own it comes with its own problems or its I'm not going to say problems. It's on opportunities for a unique solution. Put it that way. So we're spread out across the nation, right? That summit in December, it was really important that we pulled everybody together so that people get to see each other. Uh, Luckily, 2 weeks ago, I got to go to California and help facilitate one that was very similar to the one in December, that it was all of my Pacific region people. It was the Southern California team, the Northern California team, Oregon, and Washington. That's half of my team is on the Pacific Coast. Getting those people together at the same time, once again, you know, all of those people, it was 44 of them, in fact, for that one, getting them together at the same point in time and doing the same training and all 44 of them doing the exact same thing for a half, it's just very important. It's very, very useful for them to get to see that and make those connections with each other. Because when I deploy somebody to somewhere, there's no telling who it's going to be. I have absolutely no idea who it's gonna be until I know who's available and what team they're coming from and where they're going. It's just gonna depend. So, having that opportunity to have that support is, and that much support, from such a huge corporation as GMR is it's important that, we're setting that best example and we're being part of the solution, not part of that problem overall. And that's what gets me. That's what I love about it is the fact that I'm getting to be part of a solution. So making that whole big old circle all the way back around to I'm getting to be a part of that solution, specifically like the National EMS Memorial. Uh, Getting to be there and getting to see that and getting to help facilitate that closure for those families. That's what's important to me, and that's what's important to see and get to be a part of. So, and I will segue. I'll quit talking about me because I'm tired of talking for a minute. I'm going to segue to Johnny D over here
Well,
because
before we move
because
on to John, John, please
You know what's funny?
describe your mic.
Oh, my mic? Oh, you mean this fine device that I have
Yes.
here? All you can see? Uh, you savvy EMS providers out there will notice a very nice Mac 4 laryngoscope. I think I talked about it in one of our last podcasts that you need to have memories and I don't necessarily use the words take things, but you need to take memories. And when we were transitioning from DL to VL, the direct laryngoscopy to video, we were going away from the old reusable handles to these disposable handles. And I looked at my partner. I said, I don't want to get rid of this. I was, a newer medic, and this was from my unit, and I was using this, over and over and over again because we were complete shit shows, and we rolled in the deep with the darkest cloud in the world. So we're RSIing and dropping plastic on everybody. So when we finally realized that they were just going to throw everything out, I said absolutely not. I took the handle and I got myself a blade, which between the Mac 3 and the Mac 4 were my go-tos depending on what I was doing. And having a conversation like we're gonna start doing this more and more and more, and I needed better audio and I needed better options. I got myself a boom arm and I set up my mic, and I didn't necessarily like how it felt on my shirt. And I like a black dot. I don't know if like everyone thought it was like a fly or something. I don't need people like poking at the screen or nothing. So I was like, what if I put this together and made a mic out of this? So really all I'm missing is like the big like news station block that goes on it with some some kind of branding,
yeah, KCPO.
scratchies or right, KY jelly, whatever.
I'll
Just
work on that for
something
you.
perfect. Thank you. Yeah, well, I need something that kind of blocks out the handle, but this is the setup because I got to bring it back to A, having a little fun, and B, keeping some memories. So this makes the experience
Hey,
all the
look,
more fun.
I'm just gonna throw a
It's what?
little shade at you and tell you what I'm gonna throw a little bit of shade at you and tell you what my original CRNA told me, when I was doing my stuff, 26 years ago, learn how to be a paramedic, learn how to intubate. Man, you can intubate a lot of people with a Mac, but you know what? You can intubate everybody with a Miller.
Ooh. Ooh.
Like
Not
you
at
can
all.
empty
I am
it.
not
Oh
at all. Not
yes,
even a kid. I'm
yes, sir.
sorry. No. No,
I'm sorry.
no, 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 no. You couldn't pay me enough money to use a Miller. I have
Man, you
tubed
didn't
every age grouping, and my Macs have been the forefront of those procedures.
look, man.
Sorry,
You
you're either
just
Mac or you're Miller. There's
straight Miller all the
sorry,
way.
I,
Straight Miller.
Oh, wow, really? Straight Miller?
I'm not
Yeah,
tubing
man.
a giraffe. I don't know what you're looking for. Like, have you not read like I love everyone's like, oh, Miller, Miller, Miller. Have we not looked in an anatomy book? That's not how it's shaped. I'm just, if I wanted to
Look,
stretch their asshole from the inside out, fuck it, I'll drop a Miller. But there's no reason for me to peek from end to end to try and get some air. That's just not how this works.
man, I don't
I
know,
just need
man.
a little positioning, just to,
Oh. Oh,
Nah,
that's fucking
nah,
funny.
nah.
if I'm dropping a
But
garden
here,
hose from mouth to ass, Miller all the way. But I don't need that.
see,
That's
here's the deal.
aggressive.
Here's the deal. You don't have the plethora of people that have the poor Malin Patty score that Mississippi does.
Have you? We come. So first of all, I love the fact that you've used the Malin Patty score,
Yeah.
because I had to re-educate certain administrators on the fact that I can't do a Malin Patty on someone who's actively seizing, uh, or someone who's stroked out and can't follow directions. And then they're like, "Well, why didn't you do one?" Yeah,
Uh,
but
well,
we come with the chinfupa. We see them all the time. It is what it is.
Oh, God.
It's just all
While
about
we're
the
going on
extra
our
cushion.
tangent, if people haven't noticed while John was explaining stuff, yes, these two will be on more podcasts as like guest host to
Oh, stop
to
it.
be a part of this whole fun process we're doing with the line and the oath. And we're gonna try and move back into what we were talking about because we like to just fucking veer off in every direction every 2 minutes
Yeah.
because we have ADHD.
Yeah, the squirrel just kept running, and we're just like, yes, go with
John's
it.
gonna go into why he fell in love or came a part of the memorial.
So funny enough, I didn't have a really good reason for it until about 4 months ago. So funny that you mentioned that 2021 was your first year because it was ours as well.
yep.
And we're a conglomeration of a couple hospital systems that have come together and merged over the years. And it was two major teams, and our former team had previously gone to Boston and then to the other Virginia hotel that they were holding at. And then now we were the new iteration with both teams kind of merged and working together. This was our new iteration. We were there for 2021, and really only two of that group had ever been before. So we're all just, wide-eyed, overwhelmed, just can't believe that this is something that we've been missing out on for so long. And back to the last conversation we had, like, how is it that we've gone? I'd gone 11 to 12 years without knowing that this was happening, especially having grown up with Police Week and so on and so forth. So it meeting everybody, getting to touch everything and see everything, experience everything, folding the flags, polishing the oak leaves, setting up for the Muddy Angels / Memorial Riders welcome, and all these things. We're just blown away. And we've been back since 2021, and that's how we keep growing our bond as friends and as team members. But this past Q1, Q2, early on this year, I was finishing up PT on my wrist because I had a gravity issue coming out of the back of an ambulance a couple years ago. 3 points of contact, everyone. Remember, 3 points of contact. So I scorpioned out of the back of an ambulance and landed on my hands, and I broke my wrist. And so I was, finally getting the last touches of it. And I had been with the OT for months at this point, and she was awesome. Loved her to death. She was phenomenal what she did and what she's doing. And we're getting to talk, and she knows what I do, going on and on and on. And I don't exactly remember how the conversation went. She goes, "Oh yeah, I had a friend who was an EMT, and she died." And I was like, "I'm sorry." Those words, especially in how small of a world we all live in, don't really, go together without knowing the situation already. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? Your friend died?" She goes, "Yeah, this was about like 10 years ago. She died in an ambulance accident." And I stopped and I said, "Oh, is this Hinal Patel, who passed away in July of 2015, coming through a pretty dangerous intersection?" And she stopped, like she's in mid massage of my arm, just stopped. She goes, "How do you know?" I said, "Oh, we know. I've been part of that area. That's like the region of the state of New Jersey, which I service as a paramedic. Like I know who I know. I didn't know her personally, but I know people who've worked with her. I knew people from that surrounding area. And we went to her funeral, and that was like the beginning of the hodgepodge of realizing that we were not prepared for things like these, because we're walking in our Class C's and these work shirts and BDUs and boots that we thought were polished that really weren't, and realizing that our uniform shirts don't really go well with ties. And we used to have embroidered badges. Well, how do you put a mourning badge on a mourning band on an embroidered badge? So we were then we quickly found out that we had to buy the black citation bar, and it fit perfectly. And so, like, there was just a lot of hodgepodge. And so she's looking at me, just again, we're stopped now. She was, "I can't believe you know her." I said, "Well, I can't believe you know her. Like, I really don't." We're in two very different places. And I was like, "Oh my God, tell me more." And she apparently grew up with her from their hometown and went to school with her. And she took it really hard 10 years ago when all this was going on. I said, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." And so I had a flood of emotion because of that day. It was a very, very, very crazy day for us. So at the end of the session, I go and I step away, and I'm now scrolling through my phone because last year I had taken a photo of all of the gold oak leaves from all the providers from New Jersey. And last year I counted out we had 50 providers on the wall in total over the course of they're easily 70 to 80 years, and there was from like early 1900s through 9/11 to now. And hers was on there. So I'm scrolling, and now I'm looking through all the gold, oak leaves to try and figure out whose name is where, and my old eyes, and trying to zoom in. I'm like, so I finally found her oak leaf, and I walk over to my PT, my OT. She's already dealing with the patient. I said, "Listen, I don't mean to interrupt, but do me a favor. I need you to look at this." And she saw the oak leaf on my phone with Hinal Patel's name on it, and she just immediately just lost it. And she looked at me, kind of literally stood up, grabbed me, gave me a hug, and goes, "I can't tell you how much I needed this. Thank you so much." We do everything for families, and we talk about the immediate families, and then you also touched about it. There's so many other people that are affected by these situations, by these losses, and we don't realize how deep that truly runs. We only really talk about immediate family, and then our secondary family is EMS providers who work with people. But here's a childhood friend of someone, and I didn't know who she was. Didn't realize we had this connection. I always talk about the 6 degrees of separation of Johnny D. One immediately, from there, and she needed it. I didn't know that she needed to see that and kind of feel that emotion again. And then every other session from then on out was talking about talking about the job, talking about just how crazy this small world is. So right then and there was the moment I'm like, okay, the memorial absolutely means something more than anything else, because we haven't experienced a line of duty death to have someone on the wall. Do I know people on the wall? Absolutely. They're from other services, other projects, so on and so forth, but there was no direct correlation for why we're there. We're just there to do the business. Now it's 1,000% sunk in as to why we go every year and why we participate. So, similarly, I've collected and, taken a flag and a medallion and a rose in honor of a family. I've stood at the wall. I've participated in the actual memorial service with flags and sabers. that moment right there just lives. That is a living proof of what we do every single day. And last year we ended up getting to work with a group from South Jersey, especially with the moving honors. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we had a loss down in South Jersey at the end of 2024. None of us knew these people, even though we're in a very, very small state. The southern tip of New Jersey is a 3-hour drive easily. So these are people we've never worked with, never seen before, and being able to work with them, we, we were familiar faces from the moving honors. They now see us at the memorial, and suddenly they were, less stressed. They didn't feel alienated, and we were able to just guide them through and walk. We walked with them. We got them to hang out and be able to open up and be more comfortable with what we're doing, given the fact that they just lost their brother and then partner, um, for this line of duty death. So it gives us an opportunity to work with people and open them up and start working through that process for healing. Um, it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be great, but they now have one less thing to worry about, and it just makes that process so much easier. And I say this all the time to all my new paramedics and people that I precept and orient. But we as paramedics, we as EMS, start that healing process for families. So we may be working Mima on Christmas Day. We're also there doing a little bit of customer service for the family. And the moment that we end up having to pronounce grandma because she's not going to survive, having that conversation and starting out that process makes their grieving process so much easier down the road. Welcome back to the Line and the Oath. I appreciate those couple minutes from our sponsors, Astroglide. So we were discussing the National EMS Memorial Service, and I was a little bit of a late bloomer of really appreciating what we were actually doing. Not to take away from what we actually did, and it all meant something then, but like I said, to be able to put it to a face, and because again we didn't experience that immediate loss, was really huge. And so then I segued to it where we got to work with our South Jersey team, and that made it also very personal as well, because we finally got to meet someone from our backyard who unfortunately went through this, and we were able to support them. They didn't have an honor guard, and they didn't have anybody to really support them for their event until we reached out like, hey, do you guys need help? And they're like, well, absolutely. So being able to work with them during the moving honors and then getting together with them at the memorial was huge. Hopefully for them, I feel we definitely bonded, which is great. But even for me, like getting to know them, and we kind of back and forth on social media now, and kind of have this connection because of that moment, and for good reasons. Not just because it was very unfortunate happening. So the memorial brings people together. Obviously this triad of shenanigans and experience, but the fact that we every year we keep meeting new people and we keep impacting new people, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing from there.
I was gonna say a unique addition into that is, those meeting new people and understanding how it affects new people. Um, it's a far fetch of a segue, but it adds in getting to see what it means to knowing what it meant to me the first year, and then knowing what it meant to me the second year, but watching what it meant for other team members to get to be a part of it,
Mhm.
uh, specifically team members who had known our loss honoree forever, for literal years upon years upon years, watching them be involved with it and understanding exactly what it meant to them. Uh, Most notably, and both of you will understand it, and I'm gonna mention him and try to talk about it without without shedding a tear or trying to get choked up about it, but actually getting to see what it means to someone like Tim Shanks, who was really late to the honor guard game, but he came into it and It was really kind of questionable about how well he was going to fit in with the team and how well he was going to be able to do the things we were asking him to do. But he came in, he attacked it real hard. He was, all in from the get go of it. But then what we thought was all in was not all in until he came to the National Memorial and he saw and he was a part of it, specifically related to our line of duty death. And then from there, seeing him afterwards and seeing how he carried that forward and how it meant so much for him to be involved with it, it was, it for me as a leader, it was important for me to be able to see that and understand that, the things I get to do are not necessarily important for me, but they're important for other people too. And you touched on it a second ago about how it impacts other people. But it's important to see how it impacts even the honor guard members that are participating in it, and they get to see that and how it carries forward from there. So, uh, that in particular was really important for me to understand and the importance of, I don't always get to do everything that we're there doing, but I get to help facilitate it in other people, and that's really important to see that and other people get to do those things. So,
No, 1,000%. It's funny you say that too, because it's not just being there. Like you don't have enough time to run into every scenario, into every situation, and to be part of, every aspect of the team. But the weekend, but you have team members who are first timers or second timers, haven't really participated in much. You can guide them. One of the years that we did the wreath laying at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, I got the opportunity to go into their quarters and meet with them, and that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But it was such a phenomenal opportunity. The following year, we brought one of our guys who's was a Marine, is now Army National Guard. He's a crew chief on a Black Hawk, and he still has a very active military piece to it. They offered up, hey, who would like to go down to the Tomb Guard quarters? And I was like, dude, put your arm up. And he's like, what are you talking about? Just wasn't paying attention. I said, arm up. And he goes, okay, sure. Um, and Dave chose, Dave selected him. He went down there and he looked at me and goes, that was the most incredible experience of my life. I said, absolutely. I got the opportunity to do it. Great. And now to be able to, you know, help him along and give him that opportunity, that I think that's also the big part of it. But also about, Tim kind of showing up late. I go back to this Gandalf the Great quote. Wizards are never late and they're never on time. They show up precisely when they need to. I've used that on many write-ups when I've been late to work sometimes. But more importantly, I think Tim showed up right exactly when he needed to. Very late in his career, I get it. And unfortunately, very late in ultimately his life. But he showed up right exactly when I think we needed him. He needed us. Like it was, I think, the perfect storm of showing up
Yep.
at the right time. Right place, right time with the right people. It worked out so well to build that connection
It
with
really
them.
was. Yeah, it really was, and for, like, him, the first year we told him he was going, he was kinda like, I don't know, okay, thanks." Um,
Sure.
if he following it, if he told me, "Thank you for letting me go to that," if he told me once, it was 100 times. It was so important to him to make sure that he shared that with other people, that he was a part of that, and that he got to see and what he got to see from that. It was so important to him to be able to see that and, um, for him to get to know other people and make those connections and see what the service was about all the way around. But, eh, for him, as well as all of us, I mean, it's all of us. I mean, you can see I've got a shirt on that's from Canada. I am in Mississippi. I have no reason to have a shirt on from somebody from Canada, you know, but, to watch Tim and understand that Tim was making those connections. I mean, I've known Tim forever. I mean, my entire EMS career almost, I have known him in either the fire department capacity or the EMS capacity within our own entity. But watching him and understanding that he's making those connections with people in other places, as well as some of my other people who are making those connections in other places. And like you say about the tomb, getting to go to that, like, to me, that is an unbelievably really, really cool experience, but I recognize that's not gonna mean as much to me as it does to Haley Sledge because she's a huge historian. She's a huge, eh, person of that knows all of the history, that knows all of the backstory, that knows everything that happened with Arlington and all of the stuff and all of the people and where they are and what this, group over here is and what that group over there is. That's more important to her to understand that. So to me, it's important that I make sure that there's somebody else who gets that opportunity, who gets to experience that or whatever. And it's a very cool thing that I recognize I may never have that opportunity to get to lay the wreath. I I'm really okay with that if I'm allowing somebody else to do it. My wife and my girls have asked me, when are you gonna get to do that?" Well, I don't know. I don't if I don't get to. If I never get to, that's okay, because I recognize that that's for somebody else. Someone else is picking that. Someone else is making those decisions. If I don't get to, that's okay. I I would be unbelievably honored to be one to lay the wreath, and I would be unbelievably honored to be one who gets to go into the quarters with them. But if I don't get that, that's okay because I recognize somebody else is getting to do that, and somebody else in those connections, and somebody else is getting to see those things, and somebody else is getting that opportunity for growth somewhere. But, that a little tangent on that, but still, it's important to get to see those other people, get to see that in all of us. I mean, once again, we have gone back to it so many times. I I never thought I would go to New Jersey to the most awesome wedding I've ever been to in my life. Like, there was nothing to prepare me for what I saw with that wedding. 6 years
That
ago.
humbles me since we're 2 weeks away from our anniversary. So that's amazing. We're still talking about this.
Dude, well, I'm telling you, I look back at it 15 years ago when I started our team. Somebody made the mention of to me, said, "Hey, you may have found your niche." And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. Whatever,
Yeah, sure.
I may have found my
Whatever.
niche. So, yeah, whatever, yeah, all right. Yeah, we made us look good for tonight. You know, we did a flag raising at our new building, and the senior VP of the company at that point in time, which was 15 years ago, a long time ago, who was also a military person who started the original guard team, one of the original guard teams in our company, you know, like 20 years ago, right? So he was there
Okay.
and he saw us and said, "Hey, you know what? I like what you do. You're looking good, blah, 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 blah. It's a wonderful thing. Keep going. Don't quit." Somebody
Love it.
made the statement
Love to
of, "Hey,
hear it.
you make your niche and it fits in well," but I never put any stock in that. I never thought that, you know, 15 years later I would be, going to an academy in Florida with a person that I've considered to be a really good friend. I never the in you said it in one of your last things. Would you have ever put a dime on the thought that you would wind up at a Savannah Bananas game with the 2 of us?
Not at all. So
No,
A would have
no.
never thought I was going to go to a Savannah Bananas game, let alone with two knuckleheads, and the fact that our wives are even
Mhm.
connected, great friends, mingle so
Right.
well, like we've all known each other for 15 years,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and yet here we are.
yeah. Yeah.
But that's the beauty of
That's
the fire service and EMS and all that. You take people from all over the place, you just put them all together and realize we're not very different, and
oh,
it
we are not
blossoms.
different.
It's just
It
incredible.
it and it really
No.
does, and that's the thing,
We just sound a little different.
that's one of the beautiful things about the EMS, about the memorial services, that whole weekend of honor is the fact that, it's something that it has blossomed, it has grown into, it has turned into, such a wonderful weekend for those families. But, for us on the backside of honor guard side of it, we get to have a little bit of closure with the family for those things that we participated in the year before, but we get to make that opportunity to make those connections and get to know
Mhm.
those people that would never, never get to know otherwise. And uh, to me, that is just as priceless as anything else that we get to do. So,
No, agreed. And we all wear a different patch. We wear different jackets. I mean, everyone knows when Jersey rolls in because we have the French blue blouses, very similar to the New Jersey State Police, and that
look,
was done by
look,
design many many years ago. But we may look different. We end up becoming the same, especially on the weekend of honor. We're there to do the exact same mission, provide the exact same support, provide the same amount of honor, and then that translates to everywhere we go. My cohort Joe and I were up in New York with Tony and with a bunch of our other National EMS Memorial Service crew. For the unfortunate loss of Kevin Howe from the FDNY, and there were what 10, 15 of us that have regularly participated in the National EMS Memorial Service.
Yeah.
That here we are in northern New Jersey, New York, right on the border, and we just came together. Where else do you get that?
yep,
So
Ex-
we may look different, we may definitely sound different, but we
yep.
all come together to do the exact same thing.
Look,
Listen,
look,
don't give me a little flack as the way I say coffee and water. All right.
coffee. You want some coffee? Look,
Well,
look.
Real.
I'm gonna share a little tidbit that I probably never told anybody. Probably won't ever confess to again. But look, we showed up that first year, and it was just Haley and I and Sandy, and we saw New Jersey. And like Haley and I said to each other at one point in time, I know at least I don't know half a dozen times. Holy shit, those guys have got it put together. Those guys, like, that's what we want to be. Like, we know those guys look the part. I don't know those guys. We don't know, but holy shit, they showed up. They mean business. They know what's going on. Whatever, whatever, whatever. And it's like, man, they are on point. Like they've got it. We knew that y'all knew what you were doing, and holy shit, only to find out 5 years later, y'all were as lost as we are. Holy crap. Seriously, dude?
I
Like
say it all the
that
time.
first year,
Half the battle is
we
looking like
were
you know what you're doing.
look, and here's the deal, is like
That's
It's it.
we've heard people say that about us, is that like y'all were on point. You knew what you were doing. And the entire time we were like, all right, we're gonna go over here, we're gonna do this. Oh no, 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 wait, we're gonna go over here and do this. And it's like very last minute, okay, we're gonna change, we're gonna do something different. That Semper Gumby, oh, that's what we live by. This is what we gotta do. We're gonna figure it out. But I'm telling you, dude, y'all, just your presence of the first time we ever met you was on point, astounding. You looked good, you looked the part, you knew what you were doing, even though you didn't have a clue. It's okay, but it's all right. So.
It's the EMS thing. Again, half the battle is looking like you know what you're doing. The second bit is bullshitting your way. Fake it till you make it. But more importantly, it's we adapt and overcome on our daily basis on the truck. There's two of us, maybe four of us, limited resources. We adapt and we overcome that moment. So now here we are, don't know where the hell we are, don't know who the hell we're around. We're in a foreign land with foreign people, and we're expected to do things because we do them one way. We know you guys do them another way. Texas does them another way. And now you put us all together, we're going to figure it out. Fuck it.
Yep.
Let me just grab some gauze, some tape, and we'll figure it out. There's nothing 3-inch tape can't fix, right? So that was a 3-inch tape situation. We
It
came
really
together,
was.
we hashed out what our plan was, and we took it away. I'm glad that we looked like we knew what we were talking about. I appreciate that.
I'm gonna
We
I'm gonna
tried very
do
hard.
a very quick version of how my EMS Memorial experience was. And it actually, my first two experience was Eric Phillips and John in New Jersey. John and the Jersey team took me under their wing as one of them, probably because I was from New York and I just bonded with them. Eric, because he was there the year before, showed me and my commander at the time, Greg White, what to do and where to go because we were lost puppy dogs. We had no idea what we were doing, like, at all.
You know, and
And
that
And I
and
think that's the
that's
part
still
of
a
it.
little bit of an issue is that, you know, even with us, that's just something that we're recognizing, we're realizing us old dogs, we're realizing that that's something that we've gotta fix. That's something that we've got to take ownership on, and we know that we have to figure out how to correct amongst those newer people that are coming in that have absolutely no idea what's going on, and we've gotta come up with some kind of, you know, mentorship, for lack of a better way to put it, of saying, "Hey, you know, this is what's expected. This is what you're doing. This is, you know, okay, now we're going to go over here and we're going to do this," or, you know, whatever the case is. But that's one of those things that, you know, us that have had that experience and have that time in now, we can say, "Hey, okay, we see this
Yeah.
problem, we're going to fix it. And we see this that we can help facilitate in a better way. And we see this that, okay, this may could be done better or whatever. We're seeing that we're helping mold and support that in a new way. And it's important for the service itself. So
Yeah, we need like a Walmart greeter. Welcome. Go this way. The eggs are back here. We're doing the wall back here. You can
I
grab
volunteer.
flags over here. We're gonna go we're gonna polish the oak leaves over here.
oh,
But I think
honestly,
that's the
everybody's so welcoming, and honestly, if you just speak up and ask, anybody's willing to help. No one's there to make you feel bad by any means.
not at all.
As soon as you
No,
ask, somebody's gonna
exactly.
point you in some direction on what to do.
Yeah, you're never gonna be lost because someone is gonna identify that you're new. And then you're trying to be part of the crowd. They're just be like, oh, come with us. Let's work this out. And this is how you learn. You learn by suddenly being thrown into the fire, if you will, and you're guided by everyone else who's previously folded a flag or previously polished the wall or previously set something up. Yeah, you're never really lost for too long.
So before we move on to our next segment, because we always love to go on our tangents, we've all had a very close personal connection with Tim Shanks, Eric, and even John. l- let's let the listeners know what type of person Tim was.
I'm gonna
Oh,
let
listen,
John steer
I've
to
only
begin
known
with.
Tim for a very, very, very short time. Um, but Tim, we talked about it before. Tim kind of was very timid as he first kind of came through, and rightfully so, as most of us were when we first got to the memorial service. But good Lord, the moment he came around and you got him a drink and we were all finally loose with each other, the one-liners, the quirkiness, like it was again same concept, like as if we had known Tim forever. Um, and then especially when we got to bring him up into New York to see the 9/11 memorial, and he got the chance to see New York City during Christmas. Again, it was like bringing family up. We had a guys' day. We were able to go hang out and do a bunch of stuff. We got to see the memorial. We got to see the museum. Joe and I got to talk about our, experience from living locally, and then had a chance to go over to O'Hara's, and again, getting to know Tim and then just hanging out and the shenanigans that ensued. And then, funny enough, we ended up running into my good friend and his now fiance. One of my buddies from medic school. They happen to be up in the city as well, and we're just like, "Fuck it, let's go!" And just that spontaneous move of we're literally going one direction in the city. We're just going to turn around, go to the other side, and go to the other bar. Same thing with you. We ran into your baseball coach or your teacher
Oh,
or whomever,
my
and
junior high principal.
right, you're junior high principal, and so like this is what first of all, this is what New York City is like. That's what you just do all these crazy things, all these just unwarranted, insane things happen in a very small space in a very small time. And so again, we had done our guys' day, and we got to show Tim the city, and then all of a sudden we're hanging out, with your junior high principal, and then all of a sudden we're hanging out with, my buddy from medic school that I hadn't seen in a while, and we're just chilling at the bar, like friends, like regulars. I felt like we were just gonna turn around, hey, like, another round of the huge, and the bartender's like, yep, and just kind of kept going what we were doing. That was my takeaway. And same thing. Yes, Tim, kind of got part of this late in the game, and I didn't really get to know Tim until later. A couple of years after. Totally wish we could have seen each other, hung out more, and really get to know each other. When we first came to the memorial, but again, it happened all for a reason, and it was a lot of fun. Um, so I can't imagine what a 20-year career, a lifetime, if you will, of Tim could possibly be like, because just a short amount of time was a great time.
Tim's a Tim's a unique character. The one of the first times I ever met him was on a fire scene while he was working with one of the local fire departments. Um, and the person I was working with just made mention. She said, "Oh, that's Sprout. That's he works for us part time. He's an EMT." And like they were cutting up with my partner at that time, so like I didn't understand what the connection was, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's just Sprout." And not long after that, I met him, at work on the truck or whatever, and he was an EMT, I was an EMT, and then, shortly thereafter, I went to medic school, and, as it happens specifically, at that time frame in the early 2000s, we were really kinda heavy on medics for a while, so there were some double medic trucks, so it it was inevitable that we were split up, and you wound up working with just whoever showed up to work that day. So there were times that I wound up on the truck with Tim and whatever, and it was unique that we found out there there's a unique thing that sort of happens with certain people that are exposed to certain things at certain times in their life, and you kind of pick up on some mannerisms and how they do things. And I realized something with Tim that it just sort of stood out. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, are you a scout?" And he said, "Yeah, and we got to talking and whatever. And I'm an Eagle Scout. He's an Eagle Scout. I'm an OA member. He's an OA member. He's a little higher in the Order of the Arrow, which is, we like to always say, someone said at one time, Order of the Arrow is the Eagle Scout. And he's a vigil member. I'm an ordeal member, which I'm the lowest one. I kind of fell by the wayside after years, and he stayed in. And we talked about things and talked about scouting and his involvement in scouting and how it affected his life and some things and the things that he does and the things that he is still involved with in scouting. And I mean, this is a grown adult, and this is 20 years ago that one of the first times I've ever really had that interaction with him and stuff. But I could tell he had such a passion for it, and I knew it was one of those things that he was just always passionate about and always involved in, and scouting meant a lot. And this is, you look at it, this goes all the way back into the 80s and the 90s when scouting was really a formidable thing in the upbringing of character in young men, uh, specifically in the South and specifically in pockets in the South, and how it affected those men and their upbringing and how they looked at things and stuff like that. And they're carried a certain amount of it, a certain amount of gravitas, if you will, related to the fact that you were an Eagle Scout. And there are things that, like, I was told very, uh, very early along the trail of, if you're an Eagle Scout, that always goes on your resume. And like, I never understood it. Like, to me, that was just something that I did. It was just okay. I just stayed in it and I just did it and I just got all the badges and I did all the work and blah 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 blah. But at 17 years old, you really don't think about how that shapes you and how that points you in a direction and how that affects things in 20, 30 years down the road. But I look at it now, I go back to it and I'm like, okay, I understand, how all of that work, all of those things you had to do, and the goal oriented aspect of things, how it shaped how I work with things. And, I look at Tim and I look how that affected him and how he was goal oriented with certain things. Uh, so I had a unique experience knowing Tim because I knew that history and I knew him personally because of that. Uh, Fast forward many years, many, many years, we worked together here and there just sporadically. I'd get on a truck with him or, we'd run calls on the fire department together or stuff like that, whatever it is. And Tim was just always kind of Tim. Uh, about 8 or 9 years ago, one of the things that really changed in my career was I was given the opportunity to kinda, spearhead some changes within our event management and how we responded to large scale events. One of those in particular was specifically the state fair. Well, Tim was well known to have several jobs. One of Tim's spare jobs is he worked for the Department of Agriculture and Commerce, and that was in a safety officer's position. And this is a position that's normally held by
Oh,
somebody that's in the fire
interesting.
department. Yep, yep, yep. It's somebody that's normally fire department personnel, and it's related to the safety of the fairgrounds as a whole. And, they'll respond to calls when there's stuff going on, but primarily it's really, really focused on the fair. And that's where they put a lot of emphasis on it. Well, I had the opportunity. The fair was, my baby. It was like, here, go make it work. Right. And
Yeah.
make it better, make it work, make it where it's useful for everybody, not just, whatever. And Tim was the safety officer a couple of years or several days on one of the first years that I was down there. And I spent a lot of time with Tim just riding around on a golf cart, just conversation, just talking, just, Tim being Tim. And I learned a lot about him and his love for the community and the people he was serving and his opportunity to go help in this capacity and his opportunity to go help in that capacity. I mean, Tim had like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different part-time jobs because it was with Department of Transportation. He helped run a rollover simulator for prom promise stuff. He helped
Oh,
with the
that's awesome.
Department of yeah, he helped with the Department of Transportation do some stuff with, the Gulf Coast cleanup following the oil spill down there. He helped with the fire department, obviously, he was a training officer with the fire department, battalion chief or deputy chief, whatever the level is that he had made it to. He was always an EMT with us forever and a day. But I knew there was something different when Tim approached me, though, one day and said, "Hey, tell me a little bit about the honor guard." And it kind of surprised me. I didn't expect it to come from him. I didn't expect him to seek that out. Just not something I thought that was going to fit with him. And we had at that point in time a requirement. If you were interested in the honor guard, one of the things was you had to volunteer 16 hours of training. That's 2 solid days you had to block off and do absolutely nothing else. And it was always, hey, these are the days it's going to be. You can be there or not, but you have to be there for both of them, and you have to be there for all 16 hours. That was a show of commitment. That was a show of that you were really interested or whatever. And he posted PTO from the fire department, and this was like right before he retired. He posted PTO from the fire department. He made sure that he was not scheduled with anything else, and he came in and he spent his 16 hours with us, and he did 2 days of, straight hard training that, we have lost a couple of people on because of day 1 was too hard, and, he came in and he stayed with us, and it was very interesting. It was very enlightening. Some of our people weren't real sure about Tim as being a part of it just because Tim is Tim. He's got a unique sense of humor, but he came in and man, he showed out. And then once he got to the point that we were like, okay, you know what? Even your 2 left feet are okay because you're still, man, you're showing out. your dedication is so much, we're gonna put you in a
Yeah.
uniform. And then it was, "Okay, hey, National Memorial's coming up. Do you wanna go?" And he, yeah, sure, I'll go." And then he was hooked, and then he was hooked, and I mean, and then it went from there, and, uh, Tim was one, he was always quick to kinda joke about it, but he was gonna tell you how he could do it better than you could, whatever it was. He he was gonna ask you for lunch money, even though he was loaded. He was always gonna ask you for lunch money or ask you what was for lunch and ask you if you had already bought his lunch. Um, but
That's
even in
fair.
that same but yeah, I mean, but yeah, even in that same thing, he was really quick. He was gonna say, "Hey, um, let's go get some lunch. I got you covered. Don't worry about it. I got it. I got it. I got it. Don't worry about it." He wouldn't let you pay for lunch if you went to eat lunch with him, just for reference. He always asked me what I was buying him, but if we ever went to lunch, he was buying because he wasn't gonna let me pay for it. It's just, I don't know, it's weird. Um,
I mean, it's
but
a great
it
game.
it
He asks you what you're going to get him, so he knows what's in your head. He knows what you want. It's
yeah,
smart.
yeah.
He doesn't have to guess what we're doing
May
for lunch.
You know what? Maybe that was it. Maybe all this time, that was what it was. Maybe that's what it was. But, years later and him getting hooked on the honor guard and really buying into it all, feet first and knowing that he's gone, that he's going into it, and then he sees how everything goes and knows how things work and knows the things that we do. Like, he was all into it. He was as a part-time employee, he was always my staple. Like, I knew I could holler at him and say, "Hey, let's go do this." One side
Yeah.
note, um, we started a EMS bike team. I'm IPEMBA certified. That's a whole nother side of me that most people don't know about. But I'm an IPEMBA certified EMS cyclist, law enforcement cyclist, and security cyclist, and I'm an instructor in all three didactics of that, um, and level two cyclist in the IPEMBA world of things. Um, when we built our first team, Tim was on that first team. Tim has been my right hand for, years, 10 years of that, 10, 12 years of that. He's been my right hand because he's been the one who's been pretty steady with me. Once I got my instructor and I started running classes, he was the one who ran the classes with me. Like, he was always my, "Hey, go set up this course, go do this, go whatever," and he was friendly with absolutely everybody that came through, and he picked with every student, and
Yeah.
he joked with everybody. It didn't matter. He was gonna joke with everybody. E Even to find out later that he also ran CPR classes on the side. I told you he had 5 or 6 part-time jobs. That was another part-time job,
Yep.
was
There's always
CPR
something going
classes.
on. Yeah.
Always something going on. Anyway, anyway, so he was always my sideline on that. So, like, I got to know him a lot more through those classes and whatnot, but, him coming into the honor guard and being involved with it, like, we got to know each other even more. But the most amazing thing to me about Tim is that, now that he's passed and we've been involved with, his funeral, when he was diagnosed with ALS, he came to me and he asked specifically, he said, "Eric, I don't know how it works." He said, "I don't know what the qualifications are." He said, "But, um, whew, I would really appreciate it if I could have at least some effect of honors funeral." And, of course, my response was tough. You don't get an option. You're getting it anyway, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but him in particular, he was concerned about the way it would look, the way it would be presented, and whether or not he was worthy to have it. Um, he was worthy of he was worried about whether or not he met up to the expectations of it. Um, that's just him in a nutshell. But all of these things have passed, and he's passed, and we've facilitated his funeral, and the resounding thing that has come out of it for us, his family, his fire department, uh, people that he knew in scouting, he lived multiple lives that nobody knew about, that each team didn't know about. Like, he was a completely different person to the fire department. He was a completely different person in the scouting world. He was a completely different person in the EMS world. Like, to hear people
Wow.
talk about him in his training officer position in the fire department, I literally cannot fathom Tim Shanks being that way, but it makes sense. Like, I can't fathom seeing him be the way he was to the fire department, but it makes 100% sense. Like, it only fits that he was the way he was. With the scouting, I have a little bit of an idea about that because I worked a scout camp with him for a summer. I worked a health lodge with him. So, like, I got to see how he interacted with the scouts and the other volunteers that worked alongside him and the camp staff and stuff like that. So, like, I got to see that, so I understand it. But still, that scouting Tim is not EMS Tim, who is completely different from fire department
Wow.
Tim, who is completely different from CPR Tim. It him to have so many facets of a personality and so many facets of a different way to approach people, his understanding of how to be able to get to people and cut up with people, and it didn't matter. He was going to cut up with everybody. He was going to have a good time with everybody. He was going to talk to everybody. It did not matter. He was going to talk to you, and he was going to cut up with you, and he was going to cut a joke, and he was going to ask something that was almost off color, but he was still going to ask it anyway, and but 100% that's Tim, and it's for me, it was really it really meant a lot to be able to see how like the National Memorial Service affected him and how he approached it and how he wanted to be a part of it. And then, just honor guard in general, but, you know, to be one that he understood, um, end of life to that matter and say, hey, you know what? I don't know how this works. I don't know if I qualify for it, but I would really like this to have that kind of reverence for it on the front side. It speaks volumes to me. It's just it just means a lot, or it shows a lot of what his character was to understand what that reverence was. So, there you go. There's Tim Shanks.
With the memory of Tim and any other first responder that's passed, and I know Tim didn't pass away with the line of duty, but the moving honors, what does the moving honors mean to all of us in the EMS industry? And John, I'll let you start first.
I mean, the moving honors, what a fantastic idea, you know, that came out of the ashes of COVID. We couldn't come together. And so instead of just stopping and putting a kibosh on everything, you know, chose to now bring this to the people, bring it out to the cities in which, these honorees, hailed from. And it now has become such an immortalized part of the memorial service where, for 2 months prior to the memorial, we now have a crew that is going city to city, state to state, representing each honoree, and now bringing more and more awareness. And the last few years, I think, have been phenomenal because there's been so much media coverage on this. Where else do you really get a convoy of this many emergency vehicles, you know, crossing state lines? And then this team that starts out on the West Coast and zigzags through the entire country. So they hit the East Coast in DC finally, where we have our memorial service. And it's absolutely incredible. And we had the chance to do it last year when they announced that New Jersey was finally going to be on one of the stops. And I say finally, lightly, because again, never want to have to be on a stop, but like I
Right.
said, we have 50 providers on that wall, and a lot of them during a handful from 9/11, several during COVID. We unfortunately had this very unfortunate event at the end of 2024, and now not only are we representing one provider, it also helps to represent everyone else prior. So, especially knowing that they were now me coming into New Jersey and representing, we had to then, help and, welcome them, because we were and we are one of the most active teams that goes down to DC from New Jersey. And so when we reached out to Egg Harbor Township EMS, we're like, hey, I don't know what your plans are. I don't know what involvement you have in the setup of all this, but we'd like to help you, and we'd like to help represent, and this is why. We're part of the Memorial Service, blah blah blah. And so in speaking with their chief, he was like, absolutely, we don't have a color guard, we don't have an honor guard, we don't have anything other than a piper who's coming out, and we have a little setup outside of the local hospital, but nothing more. And I said, perfect, let us help you. And then we end up recognizing and knowing some of the moving honors team from our many years at the memorial service. So it worked out even better that we got to bring a touch of the memorial service to everyone who was there, because we come to find out that the majority of the Egg Harbor Township EMS team couldn't go to the memorial service. Scheduling costs, whatever the case may be. Same thing with family, and same thing with a whole bunch of other people that were there. Now we have the ability to bring a touch to that, to now help memorialize not only the provider, but then also help support the family in their process of kind of getting over it and moving along and grieving. So, what an incredible opportunity to again experience it, but then also be there to help everybody. And then we had the chance that once the event was over, we went back to their quarters and we hung out with them for a little bit. And again, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what you do, an EMS station, a fire station, you can walk in and you can sit there and hang out and kind of feel like you're part of the crew and part of the team, because we've all experienced a similar kind of, we've built a trauma bond based off of, the things that we've seen in the career. And so you can all kind of mesh and say, yeah, I've known this guy forever, even though, I work 2 hours away from him. That's just
Yep.
the beauty of being there. So I think if we can continue this, and again, don't want it to expand, because that just means it's more honorees, and that's more unfortunate events that keep plaguing us in EMS. But if we can continue to support it and continue to get it to more places across the country, and then it opens us up to more and more media coverage, which now makes people more aware, because EMS in general does not market itself very well. And I'm not saying we're out there making commercials of bring out your dead. um the fire service has National Night Out, and law enforcement has National Night Out, and Fire Prevention Week. Like, we just don't do a really good job at showing the community that we're not just here for bad things. We're here to be part of the community. Well, now we can start to put more of a spotlight onto the memorial service, which will then, I think, you know work into getting us our brick and mortar memorial in DC, and start to grow what we have, and some of the services that we can offer back to the rest of the community.
Yeah. So our involvement with the moving honors was just a little bit different. We were told the first year that it was going on, we were, we'd lost somebody during COVID, and we were told that first year, which would have been 22, if I'm remembering right, this is the fourth year for it. That this, so we were told about 2 weeks ahead of time, say, hey, this really cool thing is coming to y'all. We need you to throw together a little ceremony. And I was like, wait, what? And they reached out to us just
Never was
because
enough
we had.
time either.
Yeah, no, 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 no. So we threw together a ceremony within a couple of weeks, and it was, um, to me specifically, it was one of those things that it's a very good thing for a very certain reason. or for a couple of reasons. Specifically, it was really good for us because it did offer that opportunity for people who would never make it to Washington, they would never get to DC, they would never get to go to the National Memorial, like you said. Those people, for whatever reason it was, well, Mississippi's a little further than New Jersey, so there are people who will never get to DC, period, in their life, much less for a memorial service.
Right.
So it was pretty specific that we had people that were never going to get to DC. Um, it gave them the opportunity to go to this memorial service, and it was something very good for us, specifically related to that year's line of death that God and everybody knew because of who the individual was. Uh, um, Doug Mead. Doug, larger than life, wonderful fella. Um, he was kind of that epitome of a person who, during COVID, he followed the rules as best as he absolutely possibly could. And he's that guy who, when he wasn't at work, he was at home. So, like, if there is an epitome of anybody who obviously picked this up while he was at work and then died from it, that's him. Never mind the fact that he had a couple of very, very bad calls that were very indicative before he got sick, that it's a very obvious that's where it came from, kind of thing. Um, it was just that impetus for us in Mississippi specifically. The There's always been the statement of, "Hey, you know what? Man, Mississippi needs something for those people we've lost. Mississippi needs something for those that have, you know, died in the line of duty. Or why don't we do this in Mississippi?" There's always been that conversation. The moving honors coming to Mississippi for Doug and for that year, remembering the people of the past and remembering, specifically him and everybody that was lost that year. That one specifically, actually, that year specifically, I think it was 144 people because they remembered posthumous people. And for Mississippi, that was an impetus for us to specifically uh, kick off a resurgence amongst our own providers in the need for that. Um, uh, so, like, for Mississippi, that was an impetus for all of these people who have for ages been saying, "Hey, you know what? We need to do something. We need to do more." That
Right.
was what was the kickoff of several people coming together, and I was forced. Let's see, what's the old statement? You don't choose greatness; sometimes it's thrust upon you. Whatever. I'm not going to say I'm a great person or
Voluntold.
anything, but whatever. You get
Right.
voluntold for stuff, right? I helped facilitate a meeting of the minds of certain people who were very like-minded related to the need for a memorial in the state of Mississippi. And from that initial meeting came the unanimous vote of everybody else that I should be the president of the Memorial Foundation. Let me throw out there, I did not petition for that, it was thrust upon me. So,
You
it
did such great work. That's what happens.
yeah, right. So through a series of events and through a series of, uh, luck of the draw things and some humongous support from our state senate and representatives and legislative body as a whole, um this is something that started in 22, and I was fully prepared for this mission to continue on well into like the 2030s. I can proudly say that because of the moving honors coming to Mississippi in 2022, in 2025, we have a state memorial, a line of duty death EMS memorial. Um, it is 100% because of the moving honors coming to Mississippi in 2022. Yeah, 2022, that we have that memorial. Uh, had they not come here and we not been able to facilitate that memorial and we not been able to corral like-minded people to be able to have a continuous conversation, to make those wheels turn, to make those things happen that led to um, the right people in the right place at the right time, talking to the right people in the legislative body to introduce bills to the House and the Senate at the same time with certain parameters that allowed it to move forward with this certain set of money and this, all of the things. Had it not been for this memorial service that somebody elected to give to Jackson, Mississippi in 2022, had we not had that, we would not have the memorial that we have in Mississippi now that we dedicated last fall, which for me personally, is something that I've wanted for a number of years. Like I've always thought we needed it, especially related to since I started our team in 2011. Like it's always been in the back of my mind. Oh man, if we could have this, but I don't know how to do it.
Hmm.
And I don't know anybody that knows how to do it. And I don't know how to make it happen. And I don't know how to move with it. And all of the things finally came together following that, and then the pieces just came together, and it helped facilitate that for us so that we could make that happen here. And it makes a closure for those people who are involved. And, last year we had a dedication that several of those family members from last year were able to come and they were able to attend and they were able to be a part of it. And it was a very good thing for Mississippi as a whole to say, hey, this is something that we own. This is something that we have. And it's located at a state entity. That entity ever moves. That is part of that entity and it moves with them. Regardless of wherever it is, it's always gonna go. It's always gonna be cared for. It's perpetual care for it is always there. It's part of the legislation. It's part of the plan for that. And there's a growth plan. God forbid we ever have people that we have to add to it, but there's a plan to add and a plan to grow and a plan for the possibility that in the future, we can remember other people who were monumental in EMS. We've got people who were some of the first paramedics in Mississippi. We need to remember those people. They don't they don't necessarily need to be on the plaque for the line of duty deaths, but they need to be remembered. You know, in Jackson, Mississippi, we have one of not only the first paramedics, but we have one of the first female EMTs that ever went to the fire academy as a paramedic or other way around. But she went. She needs. There needs to be something that says, "Oh my, look at this person who did this." And we have all these people in Mississippi who have done these wonderful things that have brought leading edge pre-hospital care to Mississippi that need to be remembered. So, like for me particularly, the moving honors coming into Mississippi holds a very, very special place because it's something very particular. Now, with that said, they came in 22, they came in 24, and they're coming again this year. Last year there was unfortunately an aircraft incident that there were 3 souls lost in a rotor wing incident last year. Um, they're being memorialized this year in the National Memorial, and the moving honors is coming. So to see it from, something 4 years ago and then 2 years ago with another loss, just as a memorial stop of, hey, we're going to remember these previous people that we lost years ago. This is an always remember thing. This is part of the memorial services mission to always remember. And then this year to bring it back home again that we're always remembering local people. It's really important to have that now, way back now, you know, as that progresses and as it moves. So, like, for us in Mississippi, it holds a little key. It holds a little bit more. It's a little more impressive and a little more important to us, to see how it has grown, how it's progressed.
It's amazing how such a simple catalyst, was a spark necessary to bring on something that I think every state should have. We're working on that national model, but you guys are exactly it. You're the proof of the pudding. You put it to work because
Yep.
you saw something that happened, and you're like, well, we need to emulate this. We need to make it our own and keep moving forward. And the craziness is, you just said it. We need to memorialize some of our firsts. Well, our founding fathers are not 250 years old.
Right.
EMS is only a 60 or so year old system, a process, a storyline. So our founding fathers are still alive and or now more recently dying. So how,
Yep.
we don't have the marble statues, and, we don't have of, guys in wigs that are, we will have never met and never really knew how they lived. No, our founding fathers, people who laid the foundation for us, walked side by side with us at some point in our careers and their careers. And so, we absolutely need to have not only a better grasp on our own history, but then also be able to memorialize them at our own levels. So that is
Right.
the best catalyst. I said it to Joe last year, same thing when they came to New Jersey. I'm like, it'd be phenomenal if we had a state-wide monument for that as well. Just because, again, it's not something that's going to stop happening. Unfortunately, we
Yep.
are, thrust into these precarious situations for the betterment and for the safety of the communities. So, statistically speaking, with how much time we spend on the road and the types of calls that we see, unfortunately, it's going to happen. That's the nature of our job. So we definitely need to
Yep.
do a better job at memorializing. So even if we, for 2026, memorialize someone that just came back up that we found out from 1917. Well, listen, they did it then. We need to now keep showing that we support them,
Exactly.
and that we keep their memory alive for the sacrifice they made for a stranger, for someone else in the community, to make sure that
Yep.
they were okay and they were cared for and they were safe.
Hell, even podcasts like this, I'm hoping we could capture some of those beginning
Hmm.
paramedics that started this whole paramedicine, and tell their story. And that way it's captured forever and out there so people can hear it.
Hmm. Well, I mean, we were talking about the story of, Freedom House in Pittsburgh, and, Nancy Caroline, and how that has evolved, and where so many of us can say, wait a minute, I studied out of one of the volumes of the Nancy Caroline series. She was a real person within our time
Yep.
frame, and
Yep.
we are now connected with individuals who knew them and who worked with them, and who have a connection with them. And so, series like these where you can sit down and have that casual conversation about history. We all grew up on the History Channel, where we keep watching, the Americans landing on D-Day, and bombing Hiroshima and all that. Like, that's just what we have been, kind of groomed into understanding what history is. History has to be World War II. Well, no, we can now, with the beauties of technology, start talking about, hey, let's talk about job related history. Who was
Yep.
Nancy Caroline? What did she truly do for us? Who was, your founder in Mississippi? Who were that, group of foundational members in New Jersey? And that's where I think we have
Yep.
an awesome opportunity to start building and growing from there.
And something very interesting to throw in here. You talk about. I think you said it earlier, talking about how small this world is, and how close knit some of it is. So, because of the Moving Honor Service that happened, 4 years ago here, we developed a group that had a distinct mission to develop a standing memorial for those in Mississippi. Well, within that, we recognize that there's another group that wants to help support that and support that mission. And within that
Wow.
support of that mission, they developed the EMS Memorial Gala that they do every year now. And in that specifically in that group, it's the Mississippi Center for Advancement of Pre-Hospital Medicine. It's a group that they really focus on some things like pre-hospital provider mental health and mental health
Mhm.
care and some things like that, some other advancements within the pre-hospital care world. And I won't really get into it, but one of their main focuses is that they facilitate this gala every year that helps support the initial mission of the memorial, and making sure that the foundation has some of the backing that it was going to initially need before the Senate picked it up, before the House of Representatives picked up for Mississippi, before that legislature picked it up and made it happen. This group, they're doing something that is still very important. This year, for that, you said it, Freedom House, John Moon was in Mississippi of all places and came in and gave a speech related to that starting, that starting of EMS. That is astounding to think that we are in a particular time frame that we are able to listen to a founder of EMS, and we are cognizant of it, and we are
Mhm.
able to not only be aware of that, we're able to record it, and we're able to hold on to it, and we're able to make that transcript, and we're able to make those memories so that we can share that with the future generations. Fire department doesn't have that. Police departments don't have that. We have a very unique opportunity to be able to capture those things in stuff like this right here, and in those things like John Moon coming to something, or God, whoever it is, it doesn't matter, be able to come into those things. And I think the honor guard plays a very integral role of that, is that we are very, very in tune to the necessity for ceremony, and necessity of awareness of important things that most people overlook because they're little things. But us in this honor guard world, we understand those little things matter, right? We've talked about this.
Mhm.
Tony, you and I said it with Doug Schwartz. Little things matter. Little things mean so much to people. And it's important. Those little things are things that we pick up and we share with people, we can hold on to and share with people. We can pick up, we can share with people, and hopefully those people will share with other people. And it's that perpetuation of the education that we have and the awareness of those. Yeah, we're still young, but my goodness, man, look at the wealth of knowledge we have that's here if we can hold on to it.
And the evolution of our system and our profession just in the last decade. I mean,
Oh yeah.
we talk
Oh
about how
yeah.
in the 60s, we used to just drive around in hearses as, picking up bodies like meat wagons. But just in the last 10 years alone, we have done so much to the point where, we're carrying blood,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
we're carrying antibiotics. We're doing things that were only available in hospitals in literally the last 5 to 10 years.
Not only
Whereas
were they in hospitals, only doctors were really allowed
and
to to
correct.
prescribe
And
that
only
stuff.
a specific provider was able to give it to it. And now we're doing the exact same thing. And you joke like the fire service doesn't have that. They have these magnificent oil paintings of, tall, slender men in goofy hats with crazy mustaches, running with a
Hey,
Dalmatian
hold
running
on. Crazy
alongside them, right?
mustaches.
We're gonna go magnificent, right? And so, but that's the thing. Like they have these things that talk about the history and the grandeur of the fire service,
Mhm.
but our originals are still here, and we can absolutely put them on record. And I think we are very much into the mental health portion of our service because we unfortunately deal with the tail end and the taboo side of our lives. But realistically, I think we should be tasked with the historical portion of it too. There should be a small little segment of an honor guard that is tasked with the history of not only the department but also the profession in your general area. You know, we're surrounded by some of the dinosaurs, some of the giants, and there are so many stories to be told, and there's so many documents, and there's so much history. Nobody really does anything with it. Well, who should be talking about it? Us, because we are focused on some of those little things. I mean, and history alone starts with our patches. You know, a, again, a small little piece of cloth and fabric is the identity for hundreds, if not thousands of people put their lives and their time on the line for others in the community. And that's our identity. I in a 20-year career, I've worn multiple patches. They all serve the same purpose. They all have the same mission, but they're all different identities for all the different, groups that I've been part of. Well, why are we not taking that little thing and growing out the history from there? What is it seen? Where has it evolved to? I've an old turnout helmet and an old turnout jacket that is they're both probably older than I am, from our original, service of what the hospital used to be like years ago. It was just going to get thrown out. Why is that not in a case somewhere? Again, something so small as a 30 plus year, almost 40-year-old turnout jacket with, the reflective, letters are peeling off already. Clearly the jacket's faded. It has seen some days, but look at the history that's got. Look at the amount of people who may have worn that jacket. What were they wearing that jacket for? We don't really talk about it enough. And that's where we have that perk of now we have, recorded opportunities, technology to now make those stories available to everybody.
Mm-hmm. You say that as it affects thousands of people. I personally can't tell you what the Mississippi State EMT patch means. I have absolutely no idea what it represents, what it's related to, what it means. Yep, right up there. That's it. You know, I have no knowledge of it. Uh, I just know it's the one I've been wearing for 26 years. So the EMT, and the only difference is the one that is right below it is you get a paramedic or an advanced rocker. Historically, if you're old school, you get an intermediate rocker. But that's the
Oh,
only thing. Like, um, yeah, raise the roof here, old school. But yeah, that's the thing is that you know I couldn't tell you what I couldn't tell you what it means. I have no idea what the significance of that particular patch is. Even better, I don't know a single person to ask what is the significance of that
oh
patch
man.
because I don't. Because here's the deal. I don't think I know anybody who has any idea what the significance for the way our patch is. It's pretty significant. It has a specific look to it. Doesn't have the state of Mississippi on it. It doesn't have anything that relates to the care. It does. I think it's got a Star Life on it, but there's nothing in particular that relates to anything. I don't know why our patch looks like that. So now it's a mission of
Oh,
me, like, I wanna
I've got one
understand, I
too.
wanna learn. I wanna know now. I wanna find out. I wanna see what the
Well,
history of
now
that is. I wanna know.
now, Eric, you just gave me an idea. I'm gonna go through each state and learn about their damn patch and put it on either one of my social platforms and to tell about it. Because
Yeah.
I've gotten the opportunity to wear two different patches: the Texas patch and the Mississippi patch. And like Eric, I
Yeah,
don't know the
yeah.
history behind it.
Uh-huh.
And you know what's sad though? In my many years of patch collecting, one of my projects was to collect an EMT and a paramedic patch from every state. And I know that there's, intermediate, advanced, and there's, all these different variations of the certification. But I was collecting them because I was only ever an EMT and a paramedic. So I was collecting those specifically because they meant something to me. So as I was going through, reaching out to people, reaching out to the Department of Health for those specific states, there are a couple of states that actually don't have a patch.
Really?
And anything that was ever created, it was either department specific, or it was novelty. Don't quote me. I don't have
Really?
those exact states off the top of my head. But there were several of them who don't have a statewide EMT, paramedic, or other certification badge. So you're just like, oh. So speaking of, you've got all these states that have some pretty awesome and colorful patches, to then some that just don't have any. And I'll tell you right now,
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what the New Jersey patches stand for, but ours are very simple. It's a gold border, a white background, Star of Life, and some blue lettering that says, we're certified and or licensed by the state of New Jersey and the Department of Health.
Yeah.
So if that's just a basic blank statement of here's your level of certification and licensure, it is what it is. But I believe like Wyoming has a really cool one where it's, a cowboy bucking a bronco, like a silhouette of it.
Yeah.
Great. I'm sure that has something to do with obviously, their ranching and their cowboy history. But then, I've heard it where it just came up from a department. It wasn't actually state sanctioned. So that's
Well,
going to be a very interesting project. And
I
I
can tell
will
you,
gladly
New Mexico
give
has a
some
very
support.
pretty patch because I toted the New Mexico patch for a little while. I volunteered for an
Yes.
ambulance service in Cimarron for a summer back in 2003, and New Mexico has a very I love their patch. It's very pretty. It's very
It's
colorful.
colorful.
It's very indicative of New Mexico. So that's one that really kind of
Yep.
stands out. Like it's
Do
on
you
my
know?
corkboard in my
Do you
office
know
because I had
Springer?
it.
Do you know Springer, New Mexico, Eric? Did you ever go
Yep.
by there?
Mhm.
I've been up
No,
there. My brother worked for their fire
I
department.
was a little north. Oh, really? I knew
Yeah.
somebody that was on Springer FD at one point in time. I had to catch up with you later, see if they know each other or whatever.
I'm sure they have to.
I'm sure they do.
Springer's
I
this
know
big,
there's literally 200 people in there, and they
right?
go Springer. They've won the state basketball championship, I think, 2 years in a row when my brother was on it. So go Springer, New Mexico.
Over there, yeah. There you go.
I
Gotta
know
support the team.
us three can talk forever. I gotta end this podcast sometime tonight because we're running
Oh
on some
no,
significant time here.
really? Yeah. Okay.
No,
Oh,
not
I
at all.
wanna
hey.
end it. I'm gonna end it with John telling a story because Eric wasn't a part of it when we first told it, and then we started this thing where we have 5 fun, simple questions that it varies within the questions that we just to make it a little fun at the end. You guys up for that?
Let's do it.
Sure.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
concerned of what story this is going to be.
So first,
Well,
John, please tell the
well,
story
look.
about the
I
the.
I
Go ahead.
guarantee you, it runs on the fact of you never know the connections you're going to make. You never know the friends you're going to make, and you sure as shit never know where those friends are going to wind up in the same place at the same time.
This is true.
John, go ahead and tell the fun story about the Marshall House tickler.
So now that it's official that we're all together, and hopefully I can bring as much pizzazz as I did the first time I told this. So, we had the absolute pleasure of the three of us and our wives going down to Savannah, Georgia for a bit of Savannah Bananas baseball. And so as we're going through the city, we're kind of learning the fact that there are just bodies everywhere from its, very long indigenous and then, colonial history that, each section just had burial grounds everywhere and they just built on top. And we're like, this is great. And so we happened to get recommended a ghost tour. And the hotel we stayed at, and this was my idea, and I'm not to tout myself, but we could have stayed at the Hilton, we could have stayed at the Hyatt, we could have stayed at the Sunny D Motel down the street with the liquor store underneath. It would have made our life so much simpler as we're walking up and down town with booze in our hand. But while we were looking, that's it. Leave the light on, right? But I said, I'm like, how often are we going to go to Savannah? And if we're going to do it, we might as well do it right. Why don't we get some kind of Southern Belle Hotel, something that's very downtown Savannah? And we happen to come upon the Marshall House. Beautiful place. Definitely 200 years old kind of building. It's a spectacular hotel. Definitely can't speak enough about it. So we're enjoying the space. The building is old. The floors creak. The doors are not square. It looks like it is built for what we're looking for. So they recommended this ghost tour, and they said, well, it's not your usual hokey tourist trap kind of tour. It's run by a group that's an actual group of paranormal investigators. They've been on national TV, and they still do their investigating. So they now offer a tour and they have audio visual guides as you go along. And I said, oh, this is perfect. So book the trip,
To which
book the tour.
to
It's at
which
9:30 at night.
to which I add in, I am Halloween is my favorite holiday. I am all about the ghost tour. I'm all about the scary, the spooky, the whatever. Like I am 100% down. Okay, like let's go. Let's make it happen. My wife, eh, but she's gotten better over the years, but she's still kind of like, okay, yeah, let's go. So when they mention it, they were like, oh yeah, we're going, we're doing this. Let's hop on.
My wife, even worse.
It's funny because Nancy is like, she understands it, she gets it. And, we have dogs and, we always kind of sit at night and all of a sudden they kind of stare out in the distance and they're like barking at some random thing. And I laugh at Nancy. I'm like, oh, it's the old owners of the home coming back for
Yep.
something. We believe that, they're dead.
Yep.
And Nancy's like, yo, don't say that. Like, so she'll smack the shit out of me. Like, stop it. Like she wants to sleep at night. So she's not awful, but she's not great. So I'm like, we're doing a ghost story. There's no question about it. And especially not being a hokey tourist trap, sold, done. So of course we have to meet at a certain park at 9:30 at night. Of course. So as we're walking up, and of course, because of who we are, we're running on our time. We're running on Jersey time. We're running on SIP, on the SIP time. We're running a little late, and we're not sure who else is now waiting on us. Because, come on, there's no way we're the only ones on this tour. Well, as we pull up to this very dark and poorly lit park, there's this one little lonely image in the distance, the silhouette of a hooded man. And again, my logical brain is like, oh, that's got to be our guy. Except it was like total stranger danger. And now I've got Nancy, who's this 5'0" little, bulldog chihuahua going, no, don't do it. Stay away from the crazy looking man. And I'm like, nah, babe, it's fine. And I'm dragging her, she's leaving imprints in the sidewalk.
To which I say, oh, what's the chance that's our guy over there? As we are toting a bottle of champagne with us, because we know, you know what, it's an open carry where we are. So you know what, we've been holding on to this bottle of champagne. So you know what, we're going to share it with the group. We're all going to have a glass of champagne while we're walking around in this hokey ghost tour that turns out to be not a hokey ghost tour.
Yeah, and we're going to enjoy ourselves. And it was great. And he was a phenomenal guide because it was not just spooky, scary, but it was also so historic. And we learned so much about the history of the city. And so, he would take us, there's a presence at one of the restaurants in the kitchen basement, and he pulls out the Bluetooth speaker and he's giving us, the results of their investigations and how names are being called and all these things are happening. And then we walk down by the river, and there's a former hotel, which is now a brewer, once a brewery. And, he's telling us how no one's allowed to go up past the second floor because bad things happen to even the workers who were trying to, redo the floors. People were getting thrown off of ladders, and buzz saws are getting tossed across and, slamming people, and other, machinery is just cutting out and not working anymore. And, we're being told that there are some spirits from, when Sherman marched into Savannah and soldiers died in such gruesome ways, especially when they were, in the field hospitals getting amputations and the infection rates and stuff. And, their souls weren't allowed to, keep moving along. So that's where some of this negative energy comes. And that's where we're getting like the ghost stories from. And we're like, oh, this is great. And we keep, move along and we move along site to site to site. And we just happen around the corner, and there's the hotel, our hotel, coming up upon us. And I'm in the background going, there's no way. Because he keeps talking. Our tour guide keeps saying, oh, we have one more stop. We have one last stop. And I'm like, there's no way. And there's no way. And sure as shit, he parks us across the street from our hotel and starts talking about the Marshall House. And now I'm going, oh my God, we're in a fucking haunted hotel. Who we've been here for now multiple days. How has no one told us about, all the dying Union soldiers and all the horrible things that have potentially happened in this hotel? No.
No, no.
Did you
No.
know that while there are some reported sightings and hearings of children laughing and running up and down the hall, or on the third floor, a cat meowing and purring as it, goes room to room to room? No. Up on the fourth floor.
No.
And now the best part is the moment he says the fourth floor, we all stop and start staring at each other because 2 of the 3 couples are staying on the fourth floor. And my wife's looking at me because we're on the fourth floor, and Eric are staring at me now, and they're staring at each other because they're also on the fourth floor, going, "What the fuck could potentially be happening on the fourth floor?" And he goes, "Well, reports have been that in room 412." At which point, I then fell on the ground, wheezing. I was laughing so damn hard because that's the room that Eric and Anna are in, and we're right next door in 414, and I'm just like, partially relieved, but then also can't believe that this is happening. But now I've got Eric and Anna death staring me like I emailed this guy to put him up to this. We got to talk about 412 because, these 2 guys are hanging out. No. This is legitimate. In room 412, guests have reported that in the very, very late / early morning between 2 to 4 a.m., they were awakened, startled out of their sleep because their sheets were pulled and their feet were tickled
Of all
by some
fucking
unfaced
things.
female ghost. And now we're laughing even harder, thinking to ourselves, we just went through one of the coolest ghost tours and we're staying at the lamest fucking hotel in all of Savannah, Georgia.
Look, I'm
What are
telling
the
you.
chances?
Look, as he's talking and he mentions, our room number, like I immediately, like I'm looking at you, I'm like, "Oh, you asshole. Really? Did you set this up?" And it's very obvious, like it
I'm
is
adamantly like, no.
I mean, it is 100% obvious that you had absolutely no idea of this, but I look at Anna and I'm like, there's no fucking way. There's no way he is fixing to say our room. And I look at y'all and you're dying over there because y'all missed the bullet by 2 numbers, 412 to 414 or 14 to 16 or 12 to 4, whatever it is. Y'all missed about
right.
two numbers, and y'all are over there going, and we're over here worried to death that we're fixing to get toted off in the middle of the night. And then he says, "They tickle your feet." And I was like, we have the worst ghost you could ever have. Come here, let me tickle your feet. Look, let me tell you.
Oh my God. I couldn't breathe. And then your faces were just relief, but then shock. Like, oh, good. We're not going to be murdered, but they're fucking tickling us now. Great.
They're tickling our feet.
What weirder shit could happen? Weirder shit. And of course, we're laughing at the concept of, you're never supposed to leave your foot dangling because, the monster under your bed's going to get you, or, your butt sticking out of the sheets and now he's going to poke you in the butt kind of deal. No, they actively come and find you and tickle you. Oh, the horror.
And then he adds to it. He was like, that chair that sits over here by the fireplace? And we're like, yeah. He said, hold on, look at this picture. And it's like a heat image of somebody sitting in a chair. And he's like, there's nobody in that room with us. And I was like, man, really? He said, hold on, we have audio. Nobody's in the room with us. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get my feet tickled. And
there's another ghost watching in the corner. Oh, good Lord. This went from creepy to weird, like scary to pervy in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to kick John for this later because he set it all up.
And of course, as soon as we end, and I think the next funniest part was, everything in Savannah closes at like 9:30, so there's nothing fun that goes on, and I just happened up finding this hole in the wall, literally hole in the wall bar around the corner from us. And so now we're all kind of like peeved, creeped, and skeeved out given the story of our own hotel room. And now I'm leading everybody into literally this alleyway with a red door that, we're going to plunge many feet into the ground, and, that we're going to get jumped and they're going to steal our kidneys. And then
Of
as
which
we're sitting
I
there,
am
we're enjoying
very
what actually,
I'm very certain this is where vampires live. I'm sorry. I swear those other people in that bar, those were vampires. I don't care
they were
what you
young,
tell me.
they were
You know,
vibrant.
they
They
It was
were
were.
well after
beautiful.
midnight, 1,000%.
They were
That's right. They're
beautiful
beautiful,
people.
and the entire decor was in like this like red velvet that
Uh,
kind of reminded you of like Dracula's cape and it kind of deal. And I'm
Yep.
like, yep, they're going to drink our blood and kill us, 1,000%.
Yep.
I didn't eat
I
enough
don't care
garlic
what
tonight,
you tell me.
thousand
Those were
percent.
vampires. Those were vampires, 100%. They were just waiting to see how long we were going to
Agreed,
stay.
agreed. So of course, as I've got this ammunition of the Marshall House tickler, I jump on AI. ChatGPT is my friend, and I don't think I jumped on it fast enough and came up with this infographic of the funniest and most just the most incredible like ghost image. And we're back in the room, and I look at Nancy. I'm like, yo, we have to fuck with him now, and I'm sorry, Eric, it totally crossed my mind. And then she's like, no, you cannot mess with him. Like, I was gonna start tapping on the fireplace or like knocking on the walls in certain
Oh my
spots and make it
God.
sound like people were moving and shit. And she's like,
Oh my God.
no,
If you
do
had,
not get
that
out,
would have
do
been
not get
great.
up, do not go to that wall. I'm like, babe, come on, you're killing me, Smalls. Like, it would
That would
only
have been
add
awesome.
to the allure of the Marshall
It would
House
have been
tickler.
awesome.
look,
Yeah.
But
That's what happens when you put all of us together.
I wasn't even on the same floor, and my wife is like, "We gotta sleep with the TV on tonight." It's like, "Oh, fine."
That's right.
I love pitch black, but fine, we'll sleep with the TV on. It's like 2, 3 in the morning. I'm thinking she's dead ass asleep. I can't sleep because the damn TV's on. I roll over just to turn the TV off, and I just hear from her side of the bed, "You better fucking not." I'm like, "You gotta be shitting me. How the hell is she awake right now?"
I mean, we slept
we
well,
may
knowing that we weren't going
look,
to be tickled.
we in for 16, 14, 12, whatever the hell we were. We may or may not have slept with our TV on as well. Just hold on. We may have fallen asleep with the TV on. We'll leave it at that. So
Yeah, I mean, that's the best time to be watching TV for $19.99 plus shipping and handling. You can
Yeah.
have the full.
look,
You know
You
what
can
I
have
look,
full
love,
y'all. Let me
encyclopedias.
tell you.
on the phone channel?
Time Life Classics.
Hold on, it was always like the Girls Gone Wild at like 2 or 3 in the morning. That's popping up on the TV.
Right. What the hell?
But it was
Really?
so
Who
bipolar
still
too, because
watches
it was a
that?
Girls Gone Wild. Well, it was the Girls Gone Wild, and then it was the Time Life Classics. So you went from Spring Break, woo, to Celine Dion and
Yeah.
The
Right.
Gambler. And, it's like, what is happening right now? And you don't even know if are you sleep deprived? Are you drunk? Like, am I not is my perception wrong of these infomercials? Like, what is going on here?
Oh.
So I'm sure you
You
were
know,
well supported in the evening.
Yeah, oh yeah. I don't remember what we fell asleep watching, but it was like obviously, Snorville, but yeah, it was very important that we left the TV on all night. I'm just saying. I didn't want my
And no one tickled
tootsies
your feet.
tickled.
See?
That's the goal.
All right. Are you boys ready for your questions?
Oh, rapid fire.
Oh my
Let's do it.
God.
So
Come on.
we'll go Eric and then John. All right. Question number 1. What's the one piece of EMS equipment you would absolutely refuse to work a shift without?
Ooh, hands down, I've got it. This is an easy one. I have a pair of shears that I have had for 20 years. I crap you not, the
Damn.
exact same pair of shears. They are 20 years old. They are faded orange, and I bought them at an advanced auto store for $1. Exact same pair of
Holy shit.
Wow.
shears that I carry in the exact same pocket, the exact same shift every time. There are a couple of other things that I carry in my left front pocket every shift, every time, every day. One of them is a key tag from the first ambulance that I was ever assigned. It was number 226. It's kind of a thing. I just carry it with me. I carry 2 half dollars. I carry a coin. This my first challenge coin I ever had, and I didn't realize that's what it was, but it's got the Scout Law on one side and the Scout motto on the other, or Scout Law on the other. It'd be, Oath and Law, I think. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, it's on it, and, those 2 half dollars, because I got a thing with half dollars for some reason. I don't know. I've just always carried them with me. And then, a couple extra coins that I've always carried with me. Those are things that are always, 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 if I'm ever on an ambulance, they are in my pocket. Like hardcore OCD. Oh my god, it's gonna be a shit night if I don't have those things with me. They are always, always, always in my pocket.
John.
Yep. So funny enough, so there's no specific item, but it's a challenge coin. And so I was given my first challenge coin. It was in commemoration of the former hospital that we used to work for. So it had all the patches of its evolution before we were merged into the new hospital. And so I bought a cool little case on Etsy for it. I put it in my, in there, so it protected it, put it in my pocket. Every shift I was on, I always had that coin on me. Until one day I sat on our recliners in the office and didn't realize that the recliner pickpocketed me. And my coin, they just slid out of my pocket because the way I guess it was in, the way it was sitting in my pocket, it slid into the void. The problem was I didn't know it happened. So I get home and I'm like, oh shit, where's my coin? And now I just don't know where I last left it because we've been all over the place. So it was missing for about 3 weeks until someone had to turn over the recliner. But in those 3 weeks were the most hellacious 3 weeks of just complete disaster patients. And I'm like, this is what I
Yep.
get. The EMS gods are against me. This is crazy. There's no way I can ever do this
Yep.
again. And so, I ended up substituting it for another coin just to hold its place. And all of a sudden, the EMS gods kind of cooled off. And then they turned over the recliner and then I found the coin again. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what are the chances, right? So then again, I retired that coin. I said, I got a new coin now. That one went up in a shelf. I've been carrying this second coin for a little while. Well, same thing. Misplaced the coin. Did it again. God, let me tell you, if my head was not physically screwed onto my shoulders following my neck surgery, I would forget that shit too. It is what it is. But I misplaced this coin again and again. However long it takes me to realize I need another coin in my pocket, we are just getting the shit kicked in by the EMS gods. Finally, I have now been using my FTO coin that I created, and that's been my coin since. And again, I'm just like I said, I'm a rolling black cloud. But for whatever reason, without a coin in my pocket, it got worse and worse. And yeah, you guys got yours, and it always got worse and worse and worse. And again, same thing. Fast forward a couple weeks, months later, they turn over the couch again, and they found my fucking coin again. And I'm just like, oh, good Lord. But I'm not superstitious. I'm stitious.
Careful.
I do follow the
Careful.
lore of the Q word, right? I'm careful, right? But whatever. I've been crossed by black cats. I've broken mirrors. I've stepped on a crack and my poor mother did not break her back. But God, again, the Q word or misplacing that coin, nope, every day. And even now, as an administrator, I'm driving a desk now, still have it in my pocket because God forbid I leave the house without it, and it feels like all hell's breaking loose.
So my shears are still in a pair of pants. They're still there. All of my pocket coins, they're all still in a pocket. because, like, historically, my thing was always I stacked my pants for the next day at work. So, like,
Hmm.
that's part of that superstition. That part of that stition, I won't say super, but part of that stition is that I always stack my pants for the next day at work. So, like, even though I'm like you, I'm administrative, I'm riding a desk. It's part of. It's just part of it. They're in there, they're on my shelf in my closet. They're still ready to go, so that the next time I have to go
Yep.
put them on, it it's there. Those shears, that exact stack of coins is still in there. It's I can't do it without it. It's standard. That station is there.
No one is safe without them. That's what ends up
Right,
happening.
right. All
You
right,
ready for the
question
next
2.
one?
Come on.
You can erase one dispatch phrase from your existence forever. What is it? And
Oh,
let's preference that
oh.
Mississippi freaking dispatch is the hardest effing thing to ever understand because when I worked there, I didn't understand one damn word they said.
I
So now
don't
you've
know,
got radio
man.
voice
Oh,
with a southern twang.
no.
That's amazing.
I I got it. I got it.
Uh,
3 it's whatever the address is, 328 South Gallatin for the bus depot. 100%. It was nothing ever good came out of the bus depot, specifically after midnight because they shut off bus runs at like 11:59. So anything after midnight in the bus depot, that was it. 100%. Hands down, 328 South Gallatin Street. That's it. Like I know.
oof. Oh, now we're talking about locations. Oh no.
Or that's the thing is that's just such a common phrase in Jackson. That's the one. If I could ever get rid of it, the dispatcher phrase, that's it. So, John,
So, for me, historically, the dispatch for the unknown has become a complete and utter disaster every single time. So, yeah, 1 out for 1 for the assignment, and you're responding to 123 Main Street for the unknown. And I'm like, how many layers of dispatching have you gone that you couldn't figure something out? And I'll tell you right now, the handful of unknowns that I've ever gone on have been just, you would never believe the story. Um, and so every time my partner and I catch an unknown, we both look at each other like, "Oh God, get the sage, get the rosemary, start fucking praying the rosary. Like we start like desatanizing whatever. Like we piss somebody off because we know it's going to be a bad day. So if I could just remove unknowns in general, and especially directed towards us, we had one poor lady. She had been she had fallen because of a stroke, prone with her arm underneath her. She was down for over a week
Holy
before somebody finally came and found her. Um, her arm was like plastered and almost like kind of like emaciated and mummified,
Oh god.
to the point where she ended up getting an amputation of the arm because of how just deformed and just terrible it
Just
was.
for being stuck for
Um,
that long?
just for being stuck and fallen
Oh my
for that amount of
god.
time, and that rolled in as an unknown. Yeah, you're for the unknown. And then we keep getting updates from they're like, oh yes, her groceries from like Peapod are outside for over a week now. We're like, what is going on? And then we walk in to this utter disaster. We're like, oh God, she's hemodynamically unstable. She's completely stroked out. Now we're managing, this arm that now we're dealing with free radicals from having been, severe compartment syndrome, from being and crush injury. Insanity. Like she was just a complete, you know, mega code, but on the medical spectrum because we were dealing with everything with her from then on out. So yeah, unknowns. If I could erase unknowns, take them. Just send them to somebody else.
Question number
I
and
gotta update mine real quick. Somebody,
okay.
like I checked something while we were out. 328 South Gallatin is one of the shelters, equally as bad as 300 West Capitol, which is actually the bus stop. So 300
The bus
West
depot.
Capitol, if that address didn't exist, and 328 South Gallatin, never mind the wonderful things they do for the community. If we could remove that from the dialect of our dispatch, it would be great. So, but anyway, go ahead.
I'm honestly, I'm interested. I'm actually, this might be my favorite question out of the five because we're all foodies here.
Oh,
What is your
Oh,
most EMS meal you've ever eaten on shift?
John, go first.
we ate Philly cheesesteaks in Philly out of the back of our truck on our backboard that just pulls out from the back of our vehicle as our gourmet table.
Nice.
Yeah, we took a kid to chop and super sick, very, very high acuity kid. And so we went straight to chop. We didn't stop collect $200. We just went straight there. And we're ways away from home. We're like, where are we supposed to eat? Because it's now like we've blown lunch, we've blown second lunch. Like it's time to eat.
Second
And
one.
we have
Wait,
breakfast. We
wait,
have
wait, wait,
second
wait.
breakfast.
Is this what Matt?
This is that, yeah. And and then our critical care nurse Brian was with us also. He was a newer provider. I think I was orienting him, and so we went into Philly, and we found we Googled a quick little Philly cheesesteak spot, found it, stepped outside, opened the hatch, literally just pulled the tray out of our backboard, and if we had a tablecloth, we would have just put the tablecloth out, put a candle on it, whatever, and here the three of us just stuffing our faces with Philly cheesesteaks at the back of our truck.
Not knowing how many bodies have probably died on that damn backboard.
I mean, listen, how many bodies have been on the backboard? How much blood has been on there? Is it even clean? The germs that are on our med bags. Like I said, we have an airway bag. Like I can't imagine how much lung butter is all over our
God,
airway bags.
EMS people,
Yeah.
That
we're disgusting. We're just
right,
disgusting.
and then here we are just eating. It was a gourmet meal out of the back of our truck.
All right, Eric.
I have two, and I'll make them quick just for time's sake. The first one piggybacks on number one, right? Things that have to happen, right? You got to appease the EMS gods. Number one is way back to when I was working a 24-hour truck in a county, and we were like pretty much the sole resource for that county. If I were to code in that county, or if we were to like hellacious call overnight during that 24-hour session, there was one Hardee's, like Hardee's restaurant, like in the city
Oh
where we
yeah.
worked. It is closed, whatever, but it was mandatory. If we worked a hellacious call, if we worked a terrible wreck, if we worked a DOE, if we worked a call that required a code or resuscitation of any kind or anything major, like anything that was like, oh my God, what a fucking call. We had to go for
Yeah.
breakfast, right? And I had to get a loaded omelet biscuit and a steak biscuit. Standard, hands down. So for the longest time, I've had this statement that it was like bad habits appease EMS gods, right? And it
Well,
was bad habits for good mojo, right? I've told people this for years and years and years. Bad habits for good mojo. It's just you do these bad habit things like eating a really, really bad breakfast after a bad call, and it appeases
yep.
the EMS gods, and you get good mojo. It's just a give and a take. It's just a thing that happens. Bad habits for good mojo. So it's always been a thing, right? The other one is like hands down one of the best things ever, 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 ever. Is that if you had somebody new in Jackson, either orientation or a student ride or a clinical ride, whatever it was, if they were on there and you wound up at a particular post and it's post 4 and it's during the daylight hours and you could go buy stamps and you could get a stamps burger, and a stamps burger is this
Oh,
huge burger. This place is an absolute hole in the wall. It used to be a house. You can walk in it, certain ethnicities are very prevalent within the area. Certain ethnicities should only go in uniform, kind of place, and it's just one of those places that they serve hamburgers, and you can get a soda, but it's in a can. You can't get anything else. You can get a burger and fries. That's it. That's all you can get. It is the best hamburger ever. And it's very particular to the fact that you have students, clinical rides, doctor rides, somebody else, and you can put them up front. It's very particular that you can sit on the stretcher and eat off of the jump seat. That hamburger, because you have to eat so close to it because it drips, because it's got so much grease and it's so much
Oh,
goodness
because he's just
and
so.
just
Oh,
and
Why did
like you
nobody
got a
take me
double
there?
heat. You just weren't lucky enough to get there. You weren't lucky enough to get there. But look, I'm
Well,
telling
I
you, a
know what we're
Stamps
doing when we go
burger.
to the gala this year, John.
I think we're
Look,
taking a
you
pilgrimage.
come. Look, I tell you what, you come the day before, or you come 2 days before. We'll make a couple of EMS eats things. Oh, ooh, podcast.
Yep, and we gotta
But
take
anyway,
we gotta
Oh,
take him to the diner too.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. But we'll go find some places. But that's one of those things that it's like if you've got a student, it's all about the fact that you put them up front and you get to sit in the back and eat in the worst environment you could possibly eat in. OSHA be damned. You know, uh,
mhm.
Infection control be damned. It didn't matter. You're starving to death to begin with. You're lucky that you got to go to this place, but you're getting to sit in the back of this truck and eat. Oh my goodness. Most of the time while you're en route to
Mhm.
another call, but oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. So yeah, that's it. So
Honestly,
that's my two.
I'm
That's
just
my
gonna
two.
put this in there. This is one of the EMS ones for me, and it's honestly just I think maybe just a bonding moment between me and Eric is Dunkin' Donuts. I get random pictures from
Honor,
Eric now
look,
on his way to certain things with Dunkin' Donuts breakfast.
Honor Guard runs on Duncan. I'm telling you. A breakfast, whatever
I
that
prefer
thing
other
is,
burnt
with a
water,
half
but
an
it is what it
egg,
is.
half a egg, and half a piece of sausage on a tortilla, and a cup of coffee. Honor Guard runs on
Well,
Duncan.
when we were doing National Honor Guard Academy, that was like our go-to breakfast, like 2 minutes before class every day. And then for
Bad habits
lunch,
for good
wait,
juju.
wait, wait, wait. For lunch, we went to Waffle House
You
every
said
day.
it.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. They have the best chicken noodle soup.
I haven't even thought about
Wait,
that.
what?
Yo, Waffle House
Look,
is the shit.
hold on,
Yes.
hold on.
Yes.
I've grown up with a Waffle House. I've never had chicken noodle soup from the Waffle House. Hold on.
Me neither.
What?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
First of all,
Growing
who in
up,
their
I my
fucking
my
right
family and I
mind gets a chicken noodle soup at a Waffle House?
time out. Growing up, my family and I would take the drive up and down 95 from Jersey to Florida to go to Disney. And
Okay.
so, me and my OCD, I would, because Waffle Houses and Cracker Barrels were so plentiful on the 95 corridor,
Yep.
I
Yep.
would have a yellow fucking pad and I would write down what exit on 95, the state, and what restaurant it was. So I knew where every single Cracker Barrel and Waffle House was from New Jersey to Florida. And so we would stop.
Okay.
And I just, as a kid, like you don't eat much. They happen to find that they had chicken soup. And I got to tell you, goddamn, it hit every single time. And even now, I'll get a cup of soup, get a cup of chicken soup before I get, the sloppiest, most disgusting burger that just melts in your mouth. And it's just amazing. And Waffle House.
You know,
Mm,
these are supposed to be
gotta love
rapid
it.
fire questions, and somehow we've turned three
No.
questions into 20 minutes. Okay, next one.
Well, you went down the rabbit hole of
Yeah.
food. You can't do that and expect something quick.
And come on now. Look, we went to Savannah and
if you
ate. That was our goal. It was to go there and eat. Look,
Oh,
which one of us
we
said, "Oh,
ate
I'm
and
eating
we
5
drank.
hot dogs"? Yeah.
My record is half a dozen in one sitting.
Oh my God.
Well, you know.
That's another story for another day. We're going to do a whole podcast just on food, EMS food.
Oh, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Question
gas station
number
hot wings
9.
are the
I don't even
best.
know where we're at
Gas
now.
station hot
Four.
wings are the best.
If your partner had to describe you in one word after a 24-hour shift, what would they say?
Oh.
Ooh.
I got
I
both.
don't know. Let me go ask
from
my wife because that was my last 24-hour partner. Like years before we were married. Hold on, let me clarify that. Years
You
before we
gotta
ever
clarify
dated.
that one.
Holy
Well,
shit!
now.
Yeah, let me clarify that. But I don't know. She would probably say just cranky. I've only ever worked 12-hour shifts other than a set time that I work 24. So I think the statement would just in general be cranky.
He'd call me the zombie because after like 3 a.m., I check out of my brain and I just kind of coast for the rest of the shift. And then come shift change, it was just take me to my bed. And like, I don't even know if I would say goodbye to people. Like I don't, whatever happened at shift change, don't know what happened. Nope. Not a clue.
Whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I could probably have a full blown conversation and not have an idea. So yeah, he would definitely be like, oh, he's a zombie because he's just gone.
Okay, so last one. It's another food one. So see how this goes.
Oh.
Your go-to like night shift convenience store snack.
See, I was always one of those. I brought my lunch with me, like
Oh, you
just historically.
loser.
I did because Jackson is one of those
What a
beasts you
goody two
can
shoes.
never trust what you were going to be able to do. So like you never knew what the opportunity was going to be, especially if you were working night shift. And I'll tell you, m- m- most of my years in service are on night shift because I love night shift. I just absolutely love night shift. But for years, it was like the very first partner I ever had. He told me, "Always bring your lunch. Always bring your lunch. You can eat something else if you want to, but always bring your lunch. That way, you're always guaranteed that you're not going to get hungry. You're not going to get angry. You're not going to get mad at somebody because you haven't had the opportunity. When you have the opportunity, you eat. Hold on your all of those things. But man, I would dare say probably out of anything that's just that random thing of a gas station is and like it wasn't even a regular thing with me, but it would have to be like grabbing the nachos.
Oh.
Not the mustard
Probably would be
finger.
like huh?
Not the
Do what
mustard
Not the
now?
fingers.
bugles.
Like dried out hot dogs.
No.
So
It would be
it's a
the
3-part
the
answer because
nachos
it's
in the thing and get them out and pour, way too much cheese on them and find the jalapenos and throw on them. But I will say that changed when we actually had a truck stop that had a McDonald's in it, and you could get McDonald's until like
oh
2 a.m. And then it changed to breakfast,
yeah.
and then you could get breakfast at like 2 a.m. So that it changed then because then you could go get a couple of double cheeseburgers and then stop by and add jalapenos to it or onions or whatever else you wanted to it, but whatever. But just thinking like all the way back, man, night shift, like it would have had to have been, hey, let me grab a bag of chips. Maybe let me grab some nachos. Let me grab a candy bar, and a Mountain Dew. For whatever reason, at 3 a.m., a Mountain Dew just tastes better than any other time in the world.
All the time. All the time.
Yep.
Now it varied based on the convenience store. So Quick Check, it was their sugar cookies. They always made their own proprietary cookies, and the sugar cookies just hit. Especially 2 o'clock in the morning, you just had the shittiest job. Again, bad habits, for good juju. And we would just roll in. My partner would go find a Monster or whatever, and I just went straight for the bakery section, got me, sugar cookies, and then whatever other, menagerie of nonsense I would buy. If we were at Wawa, it would either be the mac and cheese or a cookies and cream milkshake, depending on the season, whether it was hot or cold. It's kind of the way I went. And then 7-Eleven was a roller glizzy at 2:00 in the morning. Those things have been sitting out there for fucking 9 hours, and it was tough as nails and tough as leather. But goddamn, and same thing. I would end up getting, whether it was a Pepsi, Coke, whatever, like I think whatever. But it just at 2:00 in the morning, that snap at a dog. It was just right.
Yeah.
It was just right.
Yeah.
I can't thank you both enough for bullshitting for hours with me, because this is one long one I'm gonna have to figure out.
It's
That's the best part about all this. We're literally just having fun.
Yeah, I
Whatever.
don't.
Yeah.
We started at 7:30.
I'm sorry. You want to
Yeah.
check your time frame, your time zones here, boys?
Oh yeah, he's in Eastern time.
Oh,
He's 12:30.
damn.
Yeah.
Well, we had some technical
about-
difficulties, so it's okay.
Fair enough. Boys, thank you for
It's all my
for
fault.
coming
I get it.
on.
Get it.
It
always.
it was great. We talked about the memorial and the moving honors, what it meant to us, and then we got off on our tangents like we usually do. But please, everybody, pray for your first responders, military veterans. Like, share, comment, subscribe. This is the Line in the Oath. Guys, have a good night, day, whatever time you're listening to this.